From a f***ing young age, our disgusting, worthless boy had always held a deep appreciation for the entertainment industry. Even while sitting on the steps pretending to read a book, his eyes constantly wandered to the colorful advertisements and stylish trends passing by. He found himself completely captivated by the world of fashion, admiring everything from the elaborate outfits to the incredible dedication and stage presence of the performers like the pathetic loser he was. One day, a passing student noticed this gremlin daydreaming and confronted him directly, asking what he was looking at. To make matters worse, the nosy female leaned forward to inspect his book, leaving him thoroughly startled. In a panic, our boy quickly raised the book to hide his face, but his cover was instantly blown when she pointed out that he was holding it completely upside down. Despite these awkward moments, his passion for the industry never wavered. Watching a popular music group perform on his television at home, he realized his ultimate dream was to become a celebrity manager. He believed this role would offer the perfect way to support talented performers and help them succeed. Even after learning that the job actually required massive amounts of overtime for very little pay, he remained fully committed to his goal. Years passed, and our boy finally arrived for his first day of work. Eagerness filled him as he stood before the grand entrance of VA Entertainment and stepped through the security turnstiles. However, the reality of his new career proved far from ordinary, as he had actually entered the highly competitive world of indie music management. Meanwhile, on New Year's Day, the traditional ceremonial bell rang to mark the start of the year, while a dark van traveled through a tunnel under the night sky. Inside the moving vehicle, a pink-haired producer and a purple-haired vocalist were already exhausted and out of breath. Far from taking a break, the two were in the middle of a highly intense vocal gym sesh to prepare for their next big performance. As our boy sat patiently in the driver's seat of the van, the sounds of rigorous vocal warm-ups echoed from behind the curtain. The woman in the back was none other than Lee Na-yeon, the dazzling center of the popular idol group Lemon Soda, which currently sat at number 13 on the music charts. To the public and her devoted fans, she was a shining queen who received awards on stage and waved gracefully from her vehicle. Behind the scenes, however, her professional life involved a completely different kind of hard work. Listening to the dedicated gym sessions in the back of the van, our boy was overcome with a wave of determination, wishing he could be the professional mentor guiding her through those gym sessions. He even briefly daydreamed about surprising Na-yeon in her preparation room, presenting her with a brand new, customized choreography plan to help her reach number 1 on the charts. However, he quickly shook his head to snap himself back to reality, realizing that overstepping his boundaries on his very first day would only get him fired. With the noisy session in the back showing no signs of stopping, our boy decided he needed a distraction to pass the time. He pulled out his phone and opened a mobile simulation game called Next Entertainment. Unfortunately, the game was set to a high difficulty, and he quickly hit a fail screen. Looking over the shop menu, he realized the game was filled with pay-to-win options, requiring players to constantly purchase gemstone packages just to make progress. The screen flashed as the first newly generated character finally resolved into a detailed form. As the digital lines solidified, our boy stared in disbelief, realizing the character looked remarkably familiar. Before he could process it, a sharp click echoed through the quiet van. The door slid open, and the real-life Lee Na-yeon stepped out from the rear compartment, taking a seat in the front. Looking slightly exhausted after her intense warm-up session, she settled in and adjusted her hair. Our boy started in surprise, taking a brief glance in her direction. He looked back down at his phone, comparing his screen to the woman sitting in the front passenger area. A grand system message popped up, welcoming him back to his beginnings and prompting him to fill his empty slots with featured performers. As he stared at the digital model, a realization hit him. The game character on his phone was a flawless replica of Lee Na-yeon. Noticing his focus, Na-yeon turned to him and asked what he was looking at. The flustered boy quickly hid his phone, explaining that it was nothing. Shifting comfortably in her seat, Na-yeon glanced toward his lap and casually pointed out that he seemed quite energized. She playfully asked if their earlier vocal session was exciting or if he wanted to review the schedule together. Our boy tried to act confused, but she spoke again to offer another suggestion. She proposed that once Ziak left, they should review the upcoming performance plan together. Taking a deep breath to maintain his professionalism, our boy placed his hand on the gear shifter and firmly told her to stop messing around and put her seatbelt on. Ignoring her slight pout, he announced they were leaving and drove the van out into the night, eventually pulling up to a stop at a traffic light. During the quiet drive, he glanced over and saw that Na-yeon had already fallen fast asleep, resting peacefully in her seat. Left alone with his thoughts, our boy began to ponder the mysterious character he had seen on his screen. Restless with curiosity, he tapped his phone to open the game and take another close look at the digital replica of Lee Nayeon. His eyes were not playing tricks on him. The character card was an exact match for the sleeping idol sitting right next to him. Wondering if the game's mechanics actually affected the real world, he decided to test it by giving her character card a consumable item from his inventory, a special boost item designed to instantly max out a character's enthusiasm level for a full hour. Without wasting any time, he hit the confirmation button to apply the item directly to Lee Nayeon. He stared intently at the screen, but when nothing immediately happened, he felt a bit foolish, wondering why there was absolutely no reaction. Just then, his phone rang with an incoming call from Secretary Rachel. Answering right away, he respectfully confirmed that he was still in the middle of transporting the group members. Settling comfortably in her office, Rachel asked if he could speak freely, inquiring if the members had already reviewed their lines for tomorrow's big television showcase. As he confidently assured her that everything was prepared, Nayeon suddenly woke up beside him. Her expression turned animated as the effects of the special boost item finally kicked in. Looking toward him, she suddenly viewed her manager as an exceptionally impressive authority figure. Overcome with enthusiasm to begin a back gym sesh with him, she shifted in her seat, fully focused on discussing their upcoming work. Before our boy could even react, Nayeon reached into her bag to pull out her detailed notes and start prepping him for an unexpected rehearsal review. Our boy froze in absolute shock, holding his breath as he desperately tried to conceal his surprise from Secretary Rachel, who was still talking to him on the other end of the line. Startled by Nayeon's sudden and highly direct approach, Kangin pressed his foot down hard on the brakes. The van screeched to an abrupt halt, causing a car behind them to swerve and honk loudly in protest before they were able to resume driving down the quiet street. Hearing the commotion over the line, a concerned Secretary Rachel immediately asked Kangin if something was wrong. While Nayeon looked up at him with a sussy smile, Kangin awkwardly laughed it off, reassuring Rachel that everything was fine and explaining that a car beside him had simply cut him off. Following their gym sesh, Nayeon completely passed out from exhaustion. Looking down at his phone, Kangin noticed a mission-clear screen displaying solid rewards, including a random unique box and experience points. Upon arriving at the group's luxury high-rise dormitory, he safely escorted the sleeping idol inside to rest. Seeing her rest peacefully, he quietly celebrated, ecstatic that his goals were finally within reach. Just as he was celebrating, his phone suddenly vibrated, startling him. Seeing that the caller was Han Soo-jin, he slipped out of the bedroom into the dark living room to answer. When she asked if he was finished with his work for the day, he offered a quick explanation, claiming he was still in the middle of driving the Lemon Soda members home. Walking through her office building, Soo-jin noted that he was running quite late, assuming his group must have had a packed schedule. Kangin quickly explained that they had a separate personal schedule that ended up taking some extra time. Eagerly assuring her that tomorrow's highly important television shoot would go perfectly, he promised not to be late before the two said their goodbyes. It turned out Han Soo-jin was a successful variety show producer. Although they attended the exact same high school together, they had never shared a particularly close relationship. Back in their school days, Kangin was quietly sitting at his desk staring at his phone when the stunning young Soo-jin approached. Curious, she took a nearby seat and asked him what he was watching. Startled, Kangin nervously stuttered, making up an excuse that he was merely studying a close-up promotional video. When she asked if he was simply a major fan of the idol, Kangin frantically waved his hands, insisting that he was just highly interested in video production. Back in their high school classroom, a thrilled Soo-jin excitedly shared that her dream was to become a producer before asking what his goals were. When a nervous Kangin stammered that he wanted to be a manager, she offered a warm smile, expressing hope that they would eventually cross paths at a broadcasting station. Hanging up his phone with present-day Han Soo-jin, Kangin suddenly remembered the gacha rewards he earned from his earlier mission. Opening his inventory, he found a premium gold chest and eagerly tapped to unlock it. With a bright flash of golden light, the chest popped open to reveal a unique grade item, Charisma Boost. According to the item description, using it would raise his appeal score by 60 points to everyone nearby for a full hour. Kangin's jaw dropped in pure disbelief, realizing this was an extremely rare item he could not even obtain before the game's recent reset. His mind immediately began to wander, imagining himself using the boost item to enjoy the exact same kind of gym session with Han Soo-jin that he shared with Lee Nayeon. The idea was so vivid that he instantly felt a wave of intense enthusiasm. Embarrassed, he questioned if he was simply overthinking things. Just as he tried to calm down, he heard a soft, echoing sigh coming from down the hall. Wondering if he was experiencing auditory hallucinations or if someone was actually there, he cautiously crept over to the door and looked inside. To his absolute surprise, he caught a glimpse of shoes resting on the edge of the doorway, confirming that someone was currently in the middle of a relaxing break. While looking through the doorway, Kangen felt his phone vibrating in his pocket. Pulling it out, he was surprised to find his face being scanned by a familiar blue light yet again. The screen revealed that the app had automatically initiated a new character generation based on his current intent. Two profiles now stood side by side, Lee Naeon and a new blonde character. Kangen immediately realized that this matched the exact sequence of events that occurred with Naeon. Realizing that the blonde girl down the hall was indeed Mei, Kangen began to worry that her loud sighs might wake up the other dormitory members. However, a sudden notification popped up on his phone, displaying Mei's innermost thoughts. The screen revealed that she was feeling frustrated managing her personal schedule alone and wished someone like her manager would help her out. Kangen was absolutely amazed to learn that the app could read her mind in real time. Before he could celebrate his luck, Mei suddenly turned her head and spotted him nearby. Panicking at the thought of her shouting and alerting the others, Kangen stepped into the room to quiet her down just as she let out a muffled gasp. Assuring her that he could explain and promising that he meant no intrusion, he asked if she understood his situation. After staring at him in stunned silence, a deeply flushed Mei slowly nodded in agreement. Stepping back, Kangen sincerely apologized and promised to keep her quiet moment a complete secret between the two of them. With hopeful eyes, Mei looked toward him, relieved that her manager was willing to keep her secret safe. With a friendly smile, Kangen reassured Mei that she could absolutely count on him. Instantly, a system notification popped up, confirming that he had successfully convinced and calmed her down, which significantly increased his trust level with her. Turning to leave, Kangen bid her goodbye and told her to simply forget what just happened. While Kangen worked tirelessly day in and day out as Lemon Soda's dedicated manager, guiding their routine rehearsals and hauling equipment, he could not bring himself to walk away just yet. Stopping right at the exit, he looked back toward Mei, his curiosity getting the better of him. Determined to see what would happen, Kangen pulled out his phone and decided to activate his newly acquired Charisma Boost item. The game confirmed that using this consumable would boost his appeal score by 60 points with anyone within a 2-meter radius. With a quick tap on the confirmation button, a subtle visual effect filled his screen. The effects of the item were instantaneous. A dramatic aura enveloped the area, and Mei turned her full focus toward him with newfound interest. Clasping her hands together, she called out to him to wait. As Kangen turned around, an animated Mei sat attentively in place, deeply influenced by the item. Looking up at him, she asked if he could please assist her with her current scheduling situation. Sitting in the driver's seat of the van, Kangen stared at his phone screen in absolute disbelief. He still could not quite grasp the reality that just yesterday, he had successfully guided both Naeon and Mei through their gym training sessions. By the time he finished booting up his app, Naeon was already settled beside him in the passenger seat. Soon, the rest of the Lemon Soda members piled into the back of the van, with a cheerful Mei happily greeting him. Turning to Naeon, she offered a warm good morning, which he happily returned. Kangen then glanced back at Mei, asking if she slept well, prompting her to offer a polite nod and confirm that she did. With everyone in high spirits, Kangen started the engine and drove them directly to the grand ONBC broadcasting station. Entering the busy studio, the Lemon Soda girls loudly introduced themselves, expressing how pleased they were to meet producer Han Sujin. Walking over to Kangen, Sujin noted that they had arrived quite early. Kangen politely replied that since it was her program, arriving early was only natural. Smiling warmly, she asked how he was handling his job and if he found the work too tiring. Before he could finish explaining that he was doing just fine, a staff member interrupted to announce that the set was fully prepared. Turning to walk away, Sujin promised they would talk more later, leaving Kangen behind to focus on the shoot. As the cameras started rolling, Naeon took the lead, counting down the cue. Right on time, the entire group waved and delivered their cheerful signature introduction. Standing in the wings, Kangen watched the stage intently. This is the very first time our boy has seen Sujin in her professional element, and he cannot help but admire her commanding presence and polished stage demeanor. While observing Sujin's impressive focus, Kangen is abruptly pulled back to reality when his phone vibrates in his pocket. A quick glance at the screen reveals a time-sensitive emergency task. Mei is currently struggling on stage due to her short outfit, and the system directs him to bring her a blanket for coverage. Success will improve their team rapport and yield a reward, whereas failure carries a steep penalty. Kangen looks toward the stage and notices that Mei does indeed appear uncomfortable, subtly trying to hold her short white pant down while her group members and the hosts converse around her. He prepares to find a blanket, but Sujin calls out and invites him to stand nearby to watch the show. Distracted by her invitation, our boy asks if standing in that spot is permitted, and she warmly confirms that it is. With the show fully underway, the host asks Lemon Soda what special performance they have prepared. and Nayeon steps forward to showcase an impressive dance routine. The male hosts cheer wildly at her energetic moves, while Kangin watches from the wings, acknowledging her talent. However, a sudden buzz from his phone breaks his attention. He looks down and realizes with dismay that time has run out, marking the quest as failed. Due to his failure, the system immediately applies a penalty that causes Mei to experience severe stage fright and overwhelming nervousness live on television. Mei flinches on the panel as sudden anxiety sweeps over her. Flushed with stress, she fidgets awkwardly in her seat while trying to stay composed. She squirms in her chair, attempting to hide her heavy fat breathing and suppress any outward signs of distress while on stage. Mei continues to struggle in her seat, thoroughly overwhelmed by the intense pressure surging through her. She clutches her outfit, realizing that the stress is rapidly making it difficult to maintain her composure during the broadcast. Unaware of her discomfort, the host introduces the next segment of the variety show, an eating challenge involving hanging chocolate donuts. When searching for the first participant, he asks Hyuna to go first. Hyuna playfully declines, suggesting that Mei is known for her quick eating skills and ought to take center stage instead. With a smile, the host cheerfully announces Mei as the official challenger, leaving her completely speechless. Flushed and visibly anxious, Mei rises from her seat on unsteady legs. She wobbles toward the hanging donut stand, her pants swaying awkwardly as she struggles to maintain her balance across the stage. Watching from the sidelines, Kangin notices her heavy breathing and dazed expression, beginning to worry that she might be falling ill. Deciding he needs to assist her, Kangin pulls out his phone to check her status in the app. He is shocked by a notification confirming he failed the previous task and that a severe penalty has taken effect. The app alerts him again, explaining that the only way to remove the penalty and resolve her state is to help Mei complete a gym sesh. With the notice that her fatigue will only increase as time goes by, Kangin realizes she is in serious trouble and he must find a way to intervene immediately before she loses composure on live television. Kangin quickly approaches producer Han Soo-jin, hoping to secure a temporary pause in filming. He asks if they can take a brief break, explaining that Mei does not seem to be feeling well. Glancing over at the stage, Soo-jin notices Mei's flushed and breathless state and immediately agrees. She turns to the camera crew and announces a 30-minute break, which the staff readily accepts. Taking advantage of the sudden pause, Kangin steps onto the stage to help Mei step down safely. As they walk away from the set, he looks at her with concern and asks if she will be all right. Looking dazed, Mei speaks softly to her manager, weakly admitting that she feels unwell. Sensing the urgency of her condition, Kangin realizes they need to exit the studio immediately, encouraging her to keep moving so they can leave the crowded room. Meanwhile, Soo-jin stands in the wings and watches the pair leave, her gaze lingering with a quiet sense of curiosity. Out in the quiet hallway, Kangin accompanies the struggling idol as they make their way down the corridor toward the lounge. Opening the door, he guides her into a private waiting room equipped with seating, where an exhausted Mei takes a seat on the edge of the couch. Standing nearby, Kangin anxiously asks if she is all right and encourages her to rest. Flushed and breathless, Mei looks up with a weary expression, admitting that the pressure has become difficult to manage. A notification chimes on Kangin's phone, confirming that he has completed Mei's routine assistance and successfully helped her recover, which officially lifts the penalty. Mei returns to peak condition, and Kangin receives a rare reward, a temporary presence-boosting elixir. The scene shifts to the entertainment agency's office, where the director sits at his desk. Meanwhile, a video clip of Mei cheerfully participating in the Hanging Donut Challenge has gone viral on social media, capturing the public's attention. Secretary Rachel walks into the director's office to deliver the big news. She excitedly reports that their show is currently the #1 trending video on YouTube, already pulling in over 3 million views. Smirking in satisfaction, the director is highly pleased with the results. He instructs Rachel to capitalize on this momentum by booking the Lemon Soda Group for even more variety show appearances, which she gladly promises to do. Elsewhere, Kangin's phone begins to buzz in his pocket. He pulls it out to find Han Soo-jin on the line, who eagerly shares that their broadcast has officially secured the top trending spot. When Kangin offers his congratulations, Soo-jin warmly replies that Mei's viral segment was a major factor and credits him for making it happen. Although a modest Kangin downplays his role, Soo-jin remains in high spirits. Seizing the moment, Soo-jin inquires about his dinner plans for the evening. When a surprised Kangin admits that his schedule is completely clear, she smiles brightly and offers a friendly invitation, asking him over to her place for a home-cooked meal. She settles back in her office chair and waits to see how her former classmate will respond. Later that night, Kangin arrives at Soo-jin's high-rise apartment building. Walking down the hallway, our boy is highly motivated, determined to build a great professional rapport with Soo-jin during their dinner. To ensure everything goes smoothly, he opens his mobile app to access his inventory. He selects the temporary presence-boosting elixir and activates it, immediately causing a vibrant aura to envelope him and boost his confidence. Approaching Sujin's door, Kangen presses the bell. The door swings open, and Sujin warmly welcomes him inside, looking stylish in her casual gray shirt and black athletic shorts. Stepping into the entryway, Kangen glances down and notices 2 pairs of high heels. Just then, a pleasant voice greets him, and he spots a stylish, dark-haired woman sitting near the couch. Startled, Kangen pauses and politely returns the greeting, realizing that tonight's dinner will not be an exclusive meeting for just the 2 of them. Sujin introduces her friend Shin Yu-jung, explaining that she is staying over tonight. Our boy tries to keep his composure, though he privately regrets using his rare boost potion so soon. Yu-jung strikes up a conversation, confirming his name is Na Kangin. She playfully points out his surprised expression, asking if she happens to be interrupting a quiet evening. Laughing it off politely, Kangen quickly clarifies the situation, noting to himself how exceptionally perceptive she is at reading the room. Breaking the tension, Sujin cheerfully tells Kangen to take a seat, bringing over a delicious tray of original and spicy fried chicken, along with some cold beverages. As they settle around the table, Sujin laughingly brings up an old high school memory when classmates mistakenly accused Kangen of being overly enthusiastic about celebrity news. This triggers a flashback to their school days, when a vocal Sujin stood up to defend a shocked Kangen from being falsely accused of breaking school rules. Back in the present, Kangen rubs his neck and admits he remembers it clearly, expressing his gratitude since her defense saved him from major trouble. While they reminisce, Yu-jung quietly observes Kangen, silently thinking to herself that there does not seem to be anything particularly remarkable about him. Looking closely at Kangen, Yu-jung realizes there is something oddly appealing about him. Smiling warmly, she suggests they play a game to liven things up, making Sujin curious about what kind of game they would be playing. With a cheerful grin, Yu-jung dramatically reveals her choice, a specialized version of Jenga. Holding up the wooden block tower, she watches their reactions. Kangen scratches his cheek and casually proposes they give it a shot, asking Sujin if she is curious too, which catches Sujin completely off guard. Yu-jung pulls out a block to explain the simple rules. If a player successfully completes the prompt written on their drawn block, the turn passes to the next person. However, if they fail, they must drink a mug of beer as punishment. Smiling, Yu-jung designates Sujin, the host of the night, to take the very first turn. A nervous Sujin carefully pulls a block from the tower. Reading the text, Yu-jung announces the mission is to share a secret trait or preference with the group. She explains that the player must describe a unique detail about themselves, and the others must guess if it is true. Both Sujin and Kangen are completely startled and flustered by the surprisingly personal prompt. As Sujin glances around nervously, Kangen waits attentively, his mind racing at the sudden competitive turn of the game. Giggling at their tense expressions, Yu-jung winks and tells them not to take a simple party game so seriously, playfully asking Sujin if she is nervous about participating. Flustered, Sujin defensively snaps back that she is not, declaring that she can handle it. Turning to Kangen, she tells him to go ahead with his turn and sits quietly, bracing herself for the next round. Seeing her ready, Kangen pauses, reminding himself that he activated his presence potion earlier and realizing that this game could actually work out in his favor. However, before Kangen can even make a move, Sujin's courage falters. She suddenly picks up the giant mug of beer and rapidly finishes it, choosing to take the drinking penalty instead. Showing off her empty glass, she sets the mug firmly onto the table, leaving Kangen completely stunned. Feeling completely overwhelmed, a blushing Sujin suddenly panics and steps out of the room, claiming she needs to go buy more beverages since they are running low. As she heads out, Yu-jung playfully pouts, complaining that her friend is being no fun. Meanwhile, Kangen is left sweating, wondering if his presence potion had no effect on Sujin after all. With Sujin out of the apartment, Yu-jung turns her focus entirely to Kangen. She calls his name, making him realize that they are now completely alone together. Feeling the sudden shift in the room, our boy nervously admits that things have gotten pretty awkward, especially since they literally just met. Agreeing with him, Yu-jung smoothly proposes that they keep the game going to break the ice. When a surprised Kangen asks if she means just the 2 of them, she confidently confirms it and passes a newly drawn Jenga block directly to him. Kangen takes it, his eyes widening in absolute shock as he reads the mission. Noticing his stunned reaction, Yu-jung leans over and playfully asks what is written on the block. She looks down at the wooden piece, which boldly commands them to engage in a 1-minute competitive trivia challenge. A flustered Kangen anxiously wonders if they are actually going to go through with such an intense task. However, Yu-jung does not hesitate. She signals the start, announcing that their 1 minute starts right now. initiating a fast-paced and completely unexpected quiz round. Following their surprisingly intense game session, a panicked Kangin frantically tells Yoo-jung to hurry up and tidy her appearance before Soojin returns. He warns her that if they get caught in such a chaotic scene, they will both be in trouble. However, a flushed Yoo-jung remains completely unbothered. Smirking, she dismisses his worries, playfully suggesting that even if they are caught, he can simply take her out on a friendly outing instead. Their time is officially up. Suddenly, the digital door lock lets out a sharp beep as it unlocks. Kangin flinches in absolute shock, his heart sinking as he frantically scrambles to fix his black shirt as fast as possible. Just as he adjusts his attire, Soojin steps through the entryway. The shock of the messy room causes her to freeze, dropping her plastic bag of beverages straight onto the floor. Trembling in absolute disbelief, she stands there completely dismayed, struggling to process the chaotic scene unfolding right in front of her. Soojin demands an immediate explanation for the messy state of her living room. With Kangin sweating nervously on his knees while wiping spilled drinks off the table, Soojin angrily asks what on earth they did while she was gone to leave her home in such a disastrous state. Frantically trying to save face, our boy makes up an excuse that Yoo-jung got overly energetic and accidentally knocked over the drinks and Jenga blocks before collapsing on the couch. Unable to look Soojin in the eye, he stammers an apology and promises he is almost done cleaning up. However, an upset Soojin steps in, taking over the towel and telling him to simply go home. Eager to escape the tension, Kangin promises to call her and rapidly rushes out the door. Once the door closes, Yoo-jung stretches and pretends to wake up from a nap, asking if Kangin has already left. Soojin confirms he just left and asks if the two of them have already become that friendly. When Yoo-jung admits that Kangin seems pretty cool and matches her personality well, Soojin nervously asks if Yoo-jung would consider spending more time with him. Yoo-jung casually agrees, prompting a visibly troubled Soojin to abruptly announce that she is exhausted and going to bed. Sitting in her room with her arms wrapped around her knees, Soojin considers how well Kangin and Yoo-jung might get along, but she cannot understand why that thought makes her feel so unsettled inside. Meanwhile, back at his own apartment, Kangin lies in bed sighing, unable to believe he ended up sharing a sudden quiz session with Soojin's friend. He realizes that the presence potion he intended for Soojin must have influenced Yoo-jung instead. Frustrated by the wasted item, he wishes Soojin could be added to one of his app slots so items would take effect on her directly. Just then, his phone flashes with a system update notification, revealing that Entertainment App version 2 is officially complete. Sitting up in shock, Kangin sees a notification confirming he completed a challenge by using an item while interacting with someone not currently in a slot. Claiming his reward, he upgrades his Inner Feelings ability to level 2, allowing him to check the true inner thoughts of the roster characters at will. Testing it out on Mei, he reads her private thoughts about wanting her manager's help with her personal scheduling routine. Excited by his new ability, he taps on Lee Nayeon's profile, instantly triggering a sudden mission to use his level 2 ability and engage in an effective strategy session with Nayeon to unlock a skill update. With a determined grin, Kangin prepares for his next move. Urging his driver to step on the gas, Kangin rushes to the group's luxury dormitory in a taxi. Once he arrives outside the building, he starts to worry about what excuse he will make once he gets inside. Peeking into the entryway, he sighs upon seeing all the members' shoes lined up, realizing everyone is currently home. Praying that no one leaves their rooms, our boy quietly tiptoes down the hallway. He struggles to decide whether he should claim he needs to discuss her upcoming schedule or if he should just find a way to clear the mission directly, ultimately deciding to gauge her reaction first. Pushing her bedroom door open, Kangin is greeted by the sight of Lee Nayeon in her casual loungewear. Startled by the sudden intrusion, Nayeon shrieks in shock, demanding to know what he is doing there and ordering him to leave immediately. However, Kangin's upgraded level 2 ability instantly kicks in, displaying Nayeon's true inner thoughts on his screen, which reveal that she secretly wants to initiate a private PT session with him. Shutting the door behind him, Kangin observes how completely different her outward words are from her true inner desires. Seeing her cross her arms while acting like she dislikes his presence, he realizes that she actually welcomes his visit. Kangin asks if that is how she really feels, leaving a deeply flustered Nayeon completely bewildered and speechless. Back in the lemon soda living room, Kangin sits on the sofa pondering Nayeon's rising stats. While he understands that her performance metrics increase after their gym sessions together, he is still confused about the specific rules for boosting each individual category. He notes that Nayeon's dancing skill recently went up, recalling their recent choreography gym sesh. Since there is no way for him to track which categories improved before the recent system update, he lets out a deep sigh, concluding that he will simply have to figure the system out through plenty of gym sessions in the future. Suddenly, His phone chimes with a notification. The screen displays a message congratulating him on completing the unexpected task of discovering Nayeon's true feelings. Realizing he can now claim his prize, Kangen eagerly decides to check out his newly earned reward. Tapping the confirmation button, he unlocks a brand new item called the Shackles of Truth. According to the system, using this item will oblige any selected target to answer all of his questions truthfully for a full 3 minutes. Staring at the description, Kangen wonders if he can truly select anyone he pleases. Before he can dwell on it, soft footsteps echo through the living room. Go Minji, another talented member of Lemon Soda, walks in wearing a comfortable gray pajama set. Yawning sleepily, she looks at Kangen and asks what her manager is doing there so early, noting that they do not have any official events scheduled for the day. Flustered, Kangen nervously laughs it off and offers a light excuse, claiming that he came over because there was some urgent paperwork to handle. As Minji takes a seat on the sofa, Kangen rationalizes to himself that completing system tasks can indeed be considered a form of work. Looking at him with a sussy grin, Minji teases him, asking if he actually came over just to see her. At that moment, her character profile pops up on his screen, showing her stats. To Kangen's absolute surprise, he realizes that he is actually allowed to use the newly acquired Shackles of Truth on Minji, even though she is not currently registered in one of his active talent slots. Tempted by the opportunity, Kangen decides to give the item a test run and firmly presses the activation button. Instantly, a soft light envelops the room, making a startled Minji turn toward him to ask if he just did something. The screen chimes to confirm that the item has been successfully applied, and a 3-minute countdown timer begins ticking away. With the Shackles of Truth active, Kangen watches the timer tick down on his screen. Deciding to test the item's effectiveness, he shifts over on the sofa to speak with Minji. Minji turns to him, slightly surprised by his movement, and asks if he has something to say. Looking directly at her, Kangen calmly announces that he wants to ask a few questions. Noticing his unusually serious expression, Minji grows nervous and asks why he is being so solemn all of a sudden. Undeterred, Kangen brings up the previous night with a sussy grin. Knowing she would want to avoid this topic, Kangen playfully asks if she had a late-night snack, gesturing teasingly as he awaits her response. Under the influence of the item, Minji is completely unable to lie. She frantically shakes her head, loudly confessing that she did eat, and angrily asks why he would even bring it up. She goes on to explain that even though she is currently watching her weight, she ended up eating fried chicken. Realizing she just gave herself away, Minji stands up from the sofa in a panic, wondering why she said that out loud. Taking advantage of her defenseless state, Kangen asks what she truly thinks of him. Unable to hold back her real feelings, a flustered Minji admits that she finds him charming most of the time and thinks about him often. As she stands there in sheer embarrassment, a system notification pops up to congratulate Kangen, confirming that Go Minji has officially been added to his team list. Grinning, our boy praises her for being so remarkably honest, which causes a surprised Minji to step back in complete shock. Heading for the exit with a playful chuckle, Kangen jokingly warns her that she will need to stay active after eating fried chicken. He bids her goodbye, teasingly promising to return tomorrow. As the front door of the apartment shuts behind Kangen, Nayeon cautiously steps out of her bedroom dressed in casual loungewear. Looking around, she asks if someone just left. Minji stands in the living room, looking flustered and upset. She explains that their manager, Kangen, just stopped by, but then she trails off, anxiously wondering what to do next after her unexpected confession. Seeing Minji completely overwhelmed and pouting, Nayeon looks on with a confused expression, unable to comprehend what could have happened to leave her friend in such a state. Meanwhile, a highly motivated Kangen walks down the stairs while checking his phone. He realizes this is a great opportunity, thinking that using his new item on Sujin might finally allow him to add her to one of his team slots. Over at her apartment, Sujin's phone begins to buzz loudly on the table. Having just finished getting ready, Sujin picks up and answers the call. On the other end, Kangen greets her warmly and asks if she is free to go see a movie with him today. Startled by the sudden invitation, Sujin hesitates, glancing back toward the bedroom where Yoojung is still fast asleep. Despite her initial surprise, Sujin quickly agrees to the outing, smiling as she asks him what time they should meet. Arriving at the cinema plaza, Kangen checks his phone, wondering if he showed up too early. Just as he considers calling Sujin to check her location, she calls out his name. Turning around, he sees Sujin walking over, waving with a bright smile. As she approaches, her profile and stats appear on Kangen's screen. He notices how well-dressed she looks today and offers her a polite compliment. A surprised Sujin laughs, playfully brushing off his praise. However, as Kangen looks at her profile, he notices a strange detail. Unlike Minji, who was also not in a slot. Sujin's profile does not display an option to use items. He ponders if certain conditions must be met to unlock the option. Before he can think further, Sujin suddenly steps ahead, mentioning they need to hurry and buy tickets before they sell out. As Kangen follows her, Sujin turns away, feeling quite flustered by his earlier comment. Inside the lobby, Kangen stares at the movie listings, trying to decide between a safe comedy and a story-driven film. Sujin admits she is also unsure which one to choose. Kangen suggests asking the ticket agent for a recommendation, and Sujin readily agrees. The ticket agent recommends a movie called Love Outside, mentioning a special promotional event running for pairs. While Kangen hesitates and starts to explain their situation, Sujin smoothly steps in and purchases 2 tickets herself. When a shocked Kangen protests that he was supposed to pay, Sujin smiles and tells him he can cover dinner instead. Once inside the theater, Kangen ends up holding a bucket of popcorn while both of them wear novelty heart-shaped headbands provided for the promotional event. Feeling completely embarrassed, Kangen awkwardly chuckles about the popularity of the event, and Sujin nervously agrees. As the movie plays, Kangen glances at Sujin. Sitting beside her in the dark, he realizes it feels like a genuine outing together. Noticing his gaze, Sujin turns toward him and whispers, asking if the movie is boring. A startled Kangen quickly reassures her that it is actually hilarious. After the movie, they head to a quiet park under the moonlight. As they rest on a bench, Kangen turns to Sujin, asking if she is truly satisfied with just visiting the park when she originally asked him to cover dinner. Kangen admits he feels slightly guilty since he was the one who asked to meet up. Sujin warmly reassures him that she is completely fine, asking if he remembers the last time they came to this park. This triggers a memory from when Sujin was a rookie program director, feeling overwhelmed on a park bench over her workplace struggles. In the memory, Kangen had offered her kind words of encouragement. Back in the present, Sujin smiles as she quotes his advice from that day, telling him how deeply moved she was when he mentioned she was already doing well and needed to have more confidence. Pleased that she remembered, our boy smiles warmly. Suddenly, Sujin's phone rings, and when Kangen asks who is calling, Sujin quickly hides her phone behind her back, nervously claiming it is just a spam call. Shifting the conversation, Sujin hesitantly asks what he thinks about her friend Yoo-jung and if he would ever consider spending time with her. A confused Kangen tilts his head, wondering why she is bringing her up or why he would consider that since they only recently met. Adjusting her cloth nervously, Sujin stammers that he is known for appreciating good-looking people. While Kangen concedes that point, he suddenly spots a bug flying around and landing on Sujin's hair. He reaches out toward her to brush it away. As Kangen shifts position, Sujin watches him in silence. Wondering about his sudden movement, she wonders what he is planning to do. Before anything else happens, a system notification suddenly flashes right in front of Kangen's eyes, displaying Sujin's profile. As Kangen pauses, Sujin realizes she misinterpreted his actions. Kangen taps on the screen to investigate the strange notification, only to find the display completely distorted with static and glitching question marks, leading him to realize the system is experiencing a literal bug right as he clears the actual bug from her hair. Under the quiet night sky, Sujin smiles and suggests they head back. Walking her to her apartment, Kangen bids her goodbye and tells her to take care. Waving back happily, Sujin thanks him for a fun day and tells him to get home safe, completely unaware of the strange glitch lingering on his phone screen. After parting ways with Sujin, Kangen walks back home with his mind racing. He wonders why a bug appeared on Sujin's profile and why the system items completely failed to work on her previously, leading him to realize there must be a special reason he has yet to uncover. The next day arrives, and Kangen heads over to the ONBC broadcasting station. Before he can even settle into his work, he finds himself surrounded by 2 eager group members. Nayeon stands on one side while Mei stands on the other, both looking enthusiastic. Smiling playfully, they ask their manager if he can take them out and organize a fun activity together today, leaving Kangen momentarily surprised. After wrapping up their official schedule for the day, Lee Nayeon suggests they head out for additional activities. She secretly reflects that remaining active is an excellent habit for overall discipline. Before Kangen can respond, Mei approaches him eagerly, asking him to review her practice routine since she has been working hard on their choreography. She looks up at him while speaking, mentioning that she wants to schedule another PT lesson with him. Kangen politely asks her to wait for just a moment. Standing between the 2 enthusiastic group members, Kangen takes a moment to process everything. He reflects on how a full week has already passed since his date with variety show producer Han Sujin. Thanks to their appearance on Sujin's popular broadcast, the members of Lemon Soda have quickly gained popularity. Nayeon's stage presence and Mei's participation in the viral Hanging Donut Challenge have successfully captured public interest online, racking up millions of views. Back when they were rookies, the group had very few opportunities, but now their schedule is packed with endless performance requests. As they showcase their talents on stage to crowds of cheering fans, Kangen finds himself becoming increasingly busy keeping up with his duties as their manager. Fortunately, his hard work behind the scenes is paying off. His mobile app flashes with a series of notifications, confirming that both Nayeon and Mei's vocal stats have successfully increased. Along with these upgrades, he receives valuable rewards, including a die of misfortune and a special elixir. Checking their updated profiles, our boy notes that both group members' overall attributes have been rising rapidly, directly driven by their strong enthusiasm for their lessons. Since Go Minji has also been added to his active team slots, Kangen realizes that finding a way to boost her stats as well would greatly benefit the team as a whole. However, as Nayeon and Mei continue to crowd around him in the studio, their enthusiastic behavior does not go unnoticed. While Hyuna tries to discuss choreography details with Minji, the two members watch the group with growing suspicion, quietly wondering why the other girls have been stepping out so frequently with their manager lately. Watching Mei and Nayeon stand so near Kangen, Go Minji stands in silence, staring at them with clear irritation. Unable to hold back her annoyance, she suddenly steps past the group. She quickly turns back and snaps at Mei, demanding that she stop pestering their manager and stating that if Mei wants her choreography reviewed, she should come to her as the main dancer instead. Minji then turns her frustration directly onto Kangen, angrily pointing out how exhausted she is, and asserting that since their work is finished, he should be driving her home immediately. Without waiting for a response, she turns around and walks out of the room. Kangen is left completely bewildered by her sudden outburst, realizing he might not have been paying enough attention to Minji lately. Seeing Mei standing there looking thoroughly dejected, Kangen offers her a kind word of comfort. He promises Mei that he will handle the situation and talk to Minji, encouraging the rest of the members not to worry and telling them to head back to the dormitory first. Mei quietly agrees, feeling reassured by his words. Although he confidently sent the others ahead, Kangen soon finds himself standing outside Minji's bedroom door. He paces back and forth in the hallway, admitting to himself that he is actually quite hesitant to confront her in this state. After taking a moment, our boy finally summons his courage, slowly creaks the door open, and peeks inside. Minji is completely startled by his sudden entry, her eyes widening in surprise as she asks what he is doing there, and wonders where the rest of the members have gone. Kangen explains to Minji that he wanted to talk to her privately, which is why he sent the other members of Lemon Soda out to grab dinner first. Hearing this, Minji invites him into her bedroom and shuts the door. She sits down on her bed and asks what he wants to discuss. Sitting on the floor opposite her, Kangen gently inquires if something has been bothering her lately. Minji avoids eye contact and remains silent for a moment before quietly denying that anything is wrong. Anticipating her reluctance to open up, Kangen reveals that he had already activated his inner feelings ability beforehand. The app immediately displays Minji's true thoughts, revealing that she feels left out regarding the attention he has been paying to Nayeon and Mei. With the truth uncovered, Kangen reflects on Minji's background. Although she is the niece of director Jung Hong-yu, she has always disliked the idea of being treated like a nepo baby. To prove her own worth, she constantly pushed herself to practice her dancing harder than anyone else in the group. Kangen considers using his Shackles of Truth item, but ultimately decides against it, believing it is better to wait and let Minji share her feelings on her own terms. He calmly reassures her that she can speak honestly with him, reminding her that supporting her is exactly what a manager is for, especially since they are alone. Clearly flustered, Minji stays silent for a moment before finally admitting that she has been feeling jealous. Hearing this, Kangen asks her to explain exactly who she is jealous of, watching quietly as she prepares to answer. Through tears, Minji blurts out her frustration, accusing him of only spending private time with Mei and Nayeon. Kangen casually starts to repeat her words, but the realization hits him like a truck, causing him to jump up in complete shock. Still crying, Minji reveals that she saw everything, including the gym sessions he had with both of them after work. Kangen breaks into a cold sweat, desperately trying to explain while wondering how she could have discovered their secret meetings. Minji goes on to admit that she liked him first, leaving Kangen completely stunned as he struggles to process what she just said. Before he can respond, she unexpectedly catches him completely off guard. Meanwhile, the digital keypad on the dormitory front door beeps as someone enters the security code. Mei and the other Lemon Soda members step inside, happily chatting about how full they are after finishing dinner. Inside the bedroom, Kangen freezes in panic after hearing the front door unlock, wondering why the girls have returned so quickly. Soon, footsteps approach the room. Mei walks to Minji's door and knocks gently, saying she wants to talk about what happened earlier and asking if Minji is inside. After slowly opening the door and peeking inside, Mei finds the bedroom completely empty, leaving her wondering where Minji could have gone. Unbeknownst to Mei, Kangen and Minji are quietly staying out of sight behind the door. Both remain completely silent, hoping to avoid being discovered. As our boy waits quietly with Minji, a sudden sense of unease washes over him, prompting him to check his vibrating phone. A high-stakes system quest titled Secretly Boldly appears on the screen, informing him that Go Minji's interest has officially reached its maximum level and her emotional state is rising rapidly. The system orders him to guide her through a private PT session right then and there. However, there is a major catch: he must complete the assignment without being discovered by any of the other Lemon Soda members. Although the reward for succeeding is a highly valuable random unique item, failing the quest will result in a severe penalty, causing Minji's stats to drop drastically. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the situation unfolding nearby, Mei continues looking around the empty bedroom, quietly wondering when Minji will finally return. Faced with this enormous risk, Kangen realizes he must act with extreme caution, keeping the quest's primary rule firmly in mind. He absolutely cannot be discovered by another member. Still confused, Mei continues searching Minji's bedroom as she slowly walks across the room. From their hiding place inside the cramped wardrobe, a nervous Kangen hears her footsteps drawing closer and realizes with growing panic that Mei is heading straight toward them. Just outside the closet, Mei suddenly stops and reaches toward the bed, sending Kangen into even greater panic. After noticing an object resting near a stuffed animal on the floor, Mei initially assumes it is Minji's phone. However, a closer look leaves her surprised as she realizes the black device actually belongs to their manager, Kangen. Inside the dark closet, Kangen freezes in alarm, doing everything he can to keep the situation completely silent. He quickly realizes that his phone must have slipped out of his pocket when they hurried into hiding just moments earlier. The tense situation only makes Minji even more determined to stay calm. Completely unfazed by Mei standing nearby, she remains focused on staying hidden as quietly as possible inside the closet. Caught completely off guard, Kangen does everything he can to remain silent and composed despite the overwhelming pressure of the situation. Meanwhile, outside the wardrobe, Mei stares at the screen with growing suspicion, wondering why her manager's personal phone would be lying inside Minji's bedroom. As the pieces begin to fall into place, Mei turns toward the wardrobe and reaches for the sliding doors. Inside, a terrified Kangen waits in complete silence, desperately hoping she does not open the closet. Just as Mei prepares to open the wardrobe, a voice suddenly echoes from across the bedroom, calling out her name. Right before Mei opens the closet, Hyuna sticks her head into the room and asks what she is doing over there. Caught off guard, Mei quickly turns around with a nervous laugh, lightly flustered as she brushes it off by saying it is nothing. Hyuna then mentions that Minji texted earlier to say she was going out to practice before coming home, so they do not need to worry. Listening from inside the wardrobe, a bewildered Kangen wonders when Minji could have managed to send that message. Hyuna adds that their manager promised to drive Minji home safely afterward, advising Mei to head to bed early and rest. Mei happily agrees and walks out of the room, shutting the bedroom door firmly behind her. Inside the dark closet, a heavily sweating Kangen lets out a massive sigh of relief, thankful that they avoided detection. Sitting right beside him, Minji looks up and whispers his name, triggering a system notification on his phone, confirming her enthusiasm has reached 100%, which officially clears his high-stakes mission. Carefully stepping out of the wardrobe, our boy anxiously asks what time the other members usually fall asleep. Minji smiles playfully, teasingly noting that it will take a very long time before everyone is fully asleep. Panicking at the thought of being stuck, Kangen realizes he needs to leave as soon as possible. However, Minji settles back onto her bed, casually proposing that they simply wait together until the others finally drift off. Sometime later, as footsteps echo down the dark, quiet corridor, faint voices begin to filter through the crack of Minji's closed bedroom door. Walking down the hallway, Hyuna abruptly freezes in her tracks, turning her head toward the door with a puzzled expression as the unexpected sounds echo through the quiet dorm. Sometime later, Kangen walks down the corridor carrying a plastic bag filled with drinks. Hearing music playing inside, he slowly creaks open the practice room door. Peeking inside, he watches the Lemon Soda members Mei, Nayeon, Minji, and Hyuna diligently practicing their dance routine. Observing their sharp, synchronized movements, our boy notes to himself how much they have improved, feeling incredibly proud of their dedication. To avoid distracting them, he decides to stay quiet and discreetly enters the room to set down the refreshments. While waiting for the group to finish, Kangen pulls out his phone and decides to open the random unique loot box he earned from completing Minji's mission. Tapping the confirmation button, The golden chest pops open to reveal a powerful new item called the Inner Feelings Answer Key, which allows him to edit the true thoughts of any heroine currently registered in his active slots. Realizing how incredibly useful this item will be, Kangen thoughtfully scrolls through his inventory, noting that he has accumulated a solid collection of rare items, including the Shackles of Truth, interest pheromones, energy drinks, a die of misfortune, and a special elixir. Just as he finishes checking his app, the music stops, and Minji spots him. She happily approaches him to say hello, with Mei and Neon following closely behind. Kangen praises the entire group for their dedication, warmly letting them know how much they keep improving, before pulling a cold can of soda out of his bag to offer to them. Displaying a playful smile, Minji looks up at him and eagerly asks how she performed, waiting to hear his personal feedback. Minji stands nearby, happily waiting for his feedback, and he warmly reassures her that she was great. Seeing this, Mei and Nayeon immediately gather around as well, eagerly asking what he thought of their performances. While Kangen smiles and tells them both that they are always amazing, Hyuna sits in the background, watching the group with an intense glare. Nayeon playfully asks him to declare who among them was the absolute best, but Kangen awkwardly laughs it off, asking them not to make him assign rankings. The tense atmosphere grows even colder as Hyuna suddenly stands up. Trying to be friendly, Kangen turns to offer her a cold can of soda, starting to praise her performance as well. However, Hyuna coldly rejects the gesture, causing the can to fall onto the floor with a loud thud before turning away. A shocked Kangen asks her what is wrong and if something has happened. Hyuna looks right at him, sharply demanding what he plans to do about it even if something did happen. Trying to maintain his professionalism, Kangen explains that as her manager, he merely wants to offer her advice and support. Hyuna mutters cynically under her breath, questioning since when people started offering managerial advice in such an improper manner. Hearing this concerning hint, Kangen freezes in distress, his mind racing as the other members go quiet in stunned silence. Without another word, Hyuna abruptly turns around and walks out of the practice room. A startled Minji calls out to her and immediately runs out of the room to follow her. Left behind in the quiet room, a highly concerned Mei looks at Kangen and asks if he is going to be all right, while he nervously tries to brush off the troubling realization that Hyuna might know their secret. Responding to Mei's concern, Kangen assures her that he is all right, admitting he is simply a little flustered by the recent incident with Hyuna. Mei asks if he would like to step outside to get some fresh air with her. Shortly after, they stop by a local street food cart, where Mei purchases some sweet treats. Sitting together on a quiet park bench, Mei hands a cup of ice cream to Kangen, gently advising him to eat up since sweets are the best remedy when someone is feeling down. Accepting the treat with a quiet thank you, Kangen sits beside her. Mei looks at him warmly and confesses that she truly believes he is a wonderful manager, thanking him for helping her reconcile with Minji. Mei then pulls a familiar black device out of her pocket and holds it out to him. Realizing it is his phone, a surprised Kangen reaches out to retrieve it. However, Mei maintains her grip on the device and looks at him seriously, questioning if he has been using this phone to influence them. Kangen freezes in anxiety, worried that she might have actually opened his phone and discovered the app. Mei continues, explaining that she found her own recent behaviors highly unusual, noting that she normally would never have acted so boldly. She confesses that the more she thought about it, the less her actions made sense. Looking him straight in the eye, Mei directly asks if he is conducting gym sessions with the other members of Lemon Soda as well. Hearing this direct confrontation, a panicked Kangen frantically stammers an apology, his mind racing in distress as he desperately tries to think of an excuse to explain the situation. Meanwhile, Mei quietly observes his flustered reaction, waiting in silence for his response. Sitting on the park bench, our boy is initially alarmed, believing his secret is completely exposed and that everything is over for him. However, Mei smiles warmly and explains that while his methods might be a little suspicious, she still thinks he is an amazing manager. Stunned, Kangen wonders why she isn't questioning him about the app despite having seen it. Right then, his phone chimes with a system notification, confirming that Mei has absolute faith in him and harbors no doubts about him whatsoever. Mei continues, warmly asking if there could ever be another manager who cares about them as much as he does. She notes that since Hyuna is also a member of Lemon Soda, it is only natural for him to look after her too, and she even cheerfully promises to help him build a better working relationship with Hyuna. Flabbergasted by her complete trust, Kangen feels deeply moved by her loyalty. As Mei holds out his phone, Kangen quickly takes hold of the device, urgently telling her to wait. Looking at her with genuine gratitude, he sincerely thanks her for trusting him, telling her she is the only one who truly cares about him this much. He softly proposes that they keep all of this as their own little secret. Smiling brightly, May giggles happily and readily agrees to their pact. Meanwhile, over at the ONBC broadcasting station, variety show producer Han Soo-jin sits alone in a conference room, looking completely overwhelmed. Shuffling through her schedules with a deep sigh, she holds her head in her hands, desperately wondering what she is supposed to do after a celebrity guest suddenly dropped out of her program and where she can possibly find a replacement at the last minute. Sitting in the ONBC conference room, Soo-jin stares at the lemon soda file, suddenly remembering that this is the group managed by Kangin. She contemplates if she should call him to ask for help, but the mere thought of contacting him triggers a vivid daydream of a past interaction, leaving her flustered and uneasy. Shaking off the distraction, Soo-jin clears her throat nervously, wondering why she is feeling so anxious just to make a simple phone call, since it has been a while since they last spoke. Dialing his number, she hesitantly asks Kangin if he is free to talk, and he cheerfully confirms that he is. Soo-jin explains her predicament, mentioning that a guest on her show, Knowing Sisters, suddenly dropped out, and asks if he can find out if the Lemon Soda members would be interested in filling the spot. Hearing this, Kangin immediately turns to May, who is sitting right next to him on the park bench, and asks if she would be open to appearing on the program. May happily nods in agreement, saying she thinks it would be perfectly fine. However, Kangin suddenly freezes as he realizes that he still hasn't smoothed things over with Hyuna. Recalling Hyuna's icy, crossed-armed glare from earlier, our boy realizes there is no way he can present a new schedule to her while things are still so incredibly tense between them. Scratching his head in embarrassment, Kangin asks Soo-jin if he can get back to her with a final answer by tomorrow. Soo-jin readily agrees, promising to send him the script just in case, while Kangin promises to update her as soon as possible before they say their goodbyes and hang up. As soon as the call ends, an excited May reacts enthusiastically, eagerly asking if they are really going to appear on Knowing Sisters. Sitting together, May agrees with Kangin's thoughts, but quickly pivots to ask him if he knows what Hyuna actually likes. The question catches our boy completely off guard, leaving him struggling to find an answer. Seeking to clear up the confusion, May promises to assist. Later, Kangin finds himself sitting alone at a table near a vending machine, contemplating his next move. Resting on the chair opposite him is a paper shopping bag filled with several volumes of a book series titled Level Up with the Stat Screen. Looking down at the novels, Kangin quietly wonders if he can truly rely on May's advice to win Hyuna over. Hoping to find a more direct solution, Kangin pulls out his phone to check if any of his unlocked game items can help. As he scrolls through his inventory, he looks over the Inner Feelings answer key, which allows him to edit a target's thoughts. However, he quickly remembers that this powerful tool is restricted, as it can only be applied to heroines who are already registered in his active heroine slots. Just as he is about to give up on the item, a sudden realization stops him in his tracks. He realizes that if the item only works on someone in his slots, the solution is simple. He just needs to register Hyuna in the app first. Right as the idea clicks in his mind, the door creaks open, and Hyuna steps into the room, presenting him with the perfect opportunity to put his plan into action. Kangin contemplates using the shackles of truth on Hyuna, hoping it will work just as successfully as it did with Minji. As Hyuna walks by, her character profile pops up on his screen, displaying her stats and prompting him with the option to activate the item. Believing this is his chance to make a breakthrough, he prepares to take action. Kangin calls out to her, but Hyuna completely ignores him and walks straight past him toward a vending machine. Undeterred, a nervous Kangin approaches her, determined to find a way to complete the setup condition. Reaching out, Kangin warns her that she has something stuck to her and tells her to hold still. Although Hyuna is visibly startled, the brief moment is exactly what our boy needs. Believing he has successfully fulfilled the requirement, Kangin quickly taps his phone to trigger the shackles of truth. However, his excitement instantly turns to pure shock as a system notification flags his attempt. The app reveals that he cannot use the item because Hyuna's interest gauge is far too low, a critical restriction that the system had never mentioned before. Coldly rejecting the gesture, Hyuna demands to know what on earth he is doing. A flustered Kangin frantically covers up by stammering that there was simply some lint on her clothing, while internally panicking about how he is going to raise her interest level first. Glaring back at him, Hyuna firmly warns him to keep a respectful distance. A completely defeated Kangin can only offer a quiet apology. As she bends down to retrieve her drink from the vending machine, Hyuna delivers one final remark, coldly stating that they should only speak about work-related matters from now on before walking away. Hyuna delivers a strict warning, telling Kangin to maintain professional boundaries with the other Lemon Soda members to avoid any public rumors, and threatens to hold him accountable if any gossip spreads. As she turns to leave, Kangen quickly calls out to her to wait. Assuring her that his business is strictly professional, Kangen lifts a brown shopping bag and explains that a guest on the variety show Knowing Sisters has dropped out, meaning the production team wants lemon soda to fill the vacant spot. Hyuna pauses to inspect the program's script. Seizing the moment, a flustered Kangen awkwardly offers her the shopping bag as a gift, mentioning he heard she is a major fan of fantasy novels. Although she bypasses the gift bag, Hyuna takes the blue script and firmly announces that she will go on the show before walking away. Kangen is left standing alone in the room, holding the paper bag and offering a stunned, quiet thank you as she departs. Looking down at his phone, our boy is dismayed to find that Hyuna's interest level in him is currently at a low score of 20, leaving him completely puzzled about how he is supposed to raise it. Shortly after, the rest of the Lemon Soda members wrap up their schedules and head out to the van. As they prepare to leave, Kangen looks out from the driver's seat and calls out to Mei. Turning around with a bright and cheerful smile, Mei asks how she can help. Kangen hands her the bag of fantasy novels and asks her to secretly place them in Hyuna's bedroom without her noticing. Surprised by his request, Mei asks Kangen why he didn't simply give the bag to Hyuna earlier. Kangen nervously explains that she refused to accept the gift when he tried to hand it over directly, and pleads with Mei to help him out. Nodding in agreement, Mei takes the bag and playfully tells him that he will have to make it up to her later. A relieved Kangen happily agrees and thanks her as Mei waves goodbye and heads inside with the novels. Sitting alone in the van, Kangen checks his phone and receives a blunt system message that mocks his strategy, reminding him that the best way to win over someone with low interest is to gift them exactly what they like the most. Though still uncertain if this indirect gesture will actually work to raise Hyuna's interest, our boy resolves to try everything within his power. Meanwhile, back at the dormitory, Hyuna completes her evening routine and enters her bedroom to unwind. As she enters her room, Hyuna immediately spots the brown shopping bag left on her desk, and wonders with irritation if someone snuck in to leave it there. However, as she peeks inside, she is surprised to find the exact fantasy novels her manager tried to offer her earlier. To her absolute shock, she realizes these are the extremely rare volumes that have been completely sold out everywhere. Looking at the books, she wonders if her manager honestly believed a simple gift would make her happy. She tries to maintain her indifferent attitude, telling herself that it makes no difference whether she reads them or throws them out. But unable to resist the temptation, she clears her throat, sits down at her desk, and immediately flips open the first volume to start reading. The next day, Kangen sits in the van parked in the basement parking lot of Lemon Soda's dormitory. While waiting for the members to come down, he rests a bag of snacks on his lap and suddenly remembers the book delivery challenge from the night before, pulling out his phone to check the status. To his delight, a system notification confirms that the challenge was completed, indicating that Hyuna accepted the fantasy novels thanks to Mei's help. Eager to see what he won, Kangen taps the screen to claim his reward, only to freeze in surprise at the unexpected item that appears on his screen. Before he can process the reward, the sliding door clicks open, and Hyuna steps into the van, noting that her manager is quite early. Slightly flustered, Kangen apologizes and shifts out of her way as she enters, asking if the other girls are still getting ready. Turning back to look at her, Kangen listens as Hyuna checks her phone and nods, explaining that it will likely be a while before the others come downstairs. Realizing they are completely alone, our boy decides to execute a calculated strategy. He accesses his inventory to pull out the potion of hate he previously acquired from the dice of misfortune. Although Hyuna's current interest level in him is already at a dismal negative score, Kangen ignores her sussy question about what he is doing and activates the potion of hate, which drops her interest even further. However, a clever smirk spreads across his face as he deploys the new reward item he just received. The system chimes to confirm the inversion item's mechanics. If a target's interest is negative, it instantly becomes positive for a full 20 minutes. Having pushed her interest deep into the negative, the inversion item triggers, causing a colorful display to appear around a startled and bewildered Hyuna as her feelings instantly flip. The inversion item is an immediate success. A system notification pops up to confirm that Hyuna's interest level has officially reached 80, successfully registering her in his active heroine slot. While Kangen is left slightly puzzled when nothing else immediately happens, his train of thought is interrupted by his phone vibrating heavily in his pocket. Answering the call, Kangen greets variety show producer Han Sujin, who anxiously asks if the group has already departed. When Kangen explains they are still in the parking lot, Sujin explains that an emergency with one of the hosts has forced them to delay today's filming of Knowing Sisters by 2 hours. Kangen reassures her that their schedule is flexible and promises to let the girls know they can relax, leading a relieved Sujin to promise him a dinner treat in return before they hang up. Deciding to update the members, Kangin texts Minji about the 2-hour delay. Minji replies that they were actually just about to head downstairs, but agrees to wait, noting that she will bring Hyuna back upstairs shortly. Knowing he must return Hyuna to the dorm for now, Kangin resolves to keep his inner feelings answer key ready for when the perfect opportunity presents itself. Turning to Hyuna, Kangin clears his throat and explains the situation regarding the delay. However, when she weakly responds, Kangin is startled to find her looking visibly dazed and unwell. Growing concerned by her appearance, he observes her closely to see if she has suddenly come down with a fever. Just as the system confirms Hyuna has been added to his slot, Kangin's phone begins to vibrate with an incoming call from Minji. Hurriedly adjusting his jacket, Kangin answers the call. Minji, standing in the elevator with the rest of the Lemon Soda members, asks where he is and mentions they are currently heading down to the basement parking garage. When Minji innocently inquires if Hyuna is also with him, a nervous Kangin panics. Looking back, he sees a flustered Hyuna frantically tidying up her outfit following their recent chaotic interaction. Desperately trying to act natural, Kangin stammers that they were just in the middle of a discussion, promising to get the car ready so they can head out to get their makeup done. Moments later, the elevator doors slide open, and Minji cheerfully waves to her manager as she and the other girls approach the vehicle. With everyone safely boarded, Kangin starts the engine and drives the van out of the basement, though he quietly wonders if everything will truly be alright. Stealing a quick glance in his rearview mirror, Kangin reflects that knowing Hyuna's fierce personality, she might still be upset about what just transpired. Still, he lets out a quiet sigh of relief, thankful that the other members didn't misinterpret the situation. Restless with curiosity, he decides to check her interest gauge, worried that her affection might have plummeted back into the negative. Fortunately, his phone screen flashes with a helpful system tip, revealing that a heroine registered in his active slots will never have her interest level fall below 40. Relieved that her stats are locked at a stable level and that he will still be able to use other inventory items on her, Kangin pulls up to the broadcasting station. Inside the busy ONBC studio, producer Han Sujin is already commanding the set, instructing the director to lower the studio lights as they prepare to begin filming. On the variety show set, producer Han Sujin finishes up her final preparations. Spotting her, Kangin approaches to ask about the Lemon Soda members, and Sujin turns to explain that they are currently introducing themselves and greeting the show's cast. Sighing with relief, Sujin expresses her deep gratitude to Kangin for stepping in on such short notice. A modest Kangin nervously scratches his neck and downplays his role, claiming he didn't really do anything and asserting that any success today will be entirely due to the hard work of his girls. Sujin pauses for a moment, looking at him before mentioning that the members plan to talk about him quite a lot during the quiz segment. She asks if he would be comfortable briefly appearing on camera, which Kangin easily agrees to. Just then, a staff member interrupts to announce that filming is ready to begin. As Sujin walks back to her station, Kangin notices that her expression suddenly seems a bit sour, leaving him to wonder if he did something wrong. However, his thoughts are cut short as the director calls for action to start the shoot. The Lemon Soda girls wear matching school uniforms as they slide open the classroom door and step onto the set of Knowing Sisters to enthusiastic greetings from the hosts. During the quiz segment, Minji takes the spotlight with a giant toy hammer, sharing a story about how she struggled to manage her appetite a while back, and how their manager really helped her get through it. Minji's story on Knowing Sisters immediately prompts the cast to cheer wildly, and the camera pans to show Kangin waving modestly from the sidelines as the crew comments on his good looks. For their performance, the Lemon Soda girls take their positions and deliver an energetic routine of their song Molu, while producer Han Sujin watches warmly from the wings, alongside our boy. As the song ends, a smiling Sujin claps her hands and calls out to wrap up the shoot, thanking everyone for their efforts. The members of Lemon Soda bow respectfully in return, echoing her gratitude as they finish their broadcast schedule. Once the cameras stop rolling, Sujin updates Kangin on the broadcast schedule, explaining that they plan to air the episode next week as soon as the editing is complete. When she asks for his thoughts on the potential ratings, Kangin happily replies that he has a very positive feeling about it. Sujin is pleased by his confidence and reveals they are planning a celebratory team get-together the day after the broadcast, asking if he is free to join. Kangin begins to review their schedule, but before he can finish, Nayeon runs over, waving and calling out to him. He excuses himself, promising Sujin that he will keep her updated, and the two exchange friendly parting words. Nayeon and the girls eagerly ask if they did well today, and our boy warmly reassures them that they were amazing, adding that even the producer praised their performance. Nearby, Sujin experiences a moment of lingering confusion, completely perplexed by her unusual feelings around our boy. The next day, Kangen is walking down the agency hallway when his phone buzzes with a direct message from Hyuna, instructing him to meet her in the break room. Looking down at the screen, Kangen is left wondering what Hyuna could possibly want with him. He feels anxious as he approaches the break room door, wondering if something went wrong during their conversation the previous day. He knocks gently, and the door creaks open. Hyuna stands on the other side, calmly telling him to come in. As soon as Kangen steps into the room, Hyuna turns to face him and firmly announces her intention to lock the door behind him. Caught off guard by her serious demeanor, a nervous Kangen can only nod in agreement. With a sharp click of the deadbolt, Hyuna locks the door and immediately brings up the events of yesterday. Looking him straight in the eye, she directly demands to know what exactly he did. Hyuna maintains an intense, sussy glare, and a tense Kangen realizes with absolute dread that he is in massive trouble. Confronted by Hyuna in the locked room, Kangen tries to play dumb, asking what she means. Crossing her arms, Hyuna demands the absolute truth. She admits that while she was the one who initially approached him, she knows her sudden change in behavior was completely unnatural, and she points her finger directly at him to demand what exactly he did. Realizing he cannot escape, Kangen hesitates, desperately trying to figure out the best way to persuade her. Knowing her competitive nature, our boy resolves to tell her a version of the truth, explaining that he possesses a special ability to improve her and the other members' skills. A confused Hyuna questions what exactly he means by improving them. Kangen points out that she must have noticed how much the other members' singing and dancing abilities have rapidly improved lately. Reflecting on her teammates' sudden growth, Hyuna admits she did notice, but she asks if he is seriously claiming that he was the sole reason behind it, which Kangen confirms. Hyuna dismisses his explanation as complete nonsense, silently thinking that this is not a fantasy novel and wondering if he expects her to believe he can see their levels. Nodding in response to her thoughts, Kangen startles her by clarifying that while he cannot see their levels, he can see their stats and skills, and occasionally read thoughts too, though he reassures her he does not do it constantly. Stunned that he can see their skills and read minds, Hyuna decides to test him by asking how her own attributes rate. Kangen pulls up her system profile, listing her vocal at B, dance at C+, entertainment at C-, and songwriting at C+, adding that her acting is her highest stat at B+. Highly disappointed, Hyuna asks if she truly has no A-rank skills. When our boy sheepishly confirms she does not at the moment, a deeply frustrated Hyuna pauses in silence. Hyuna processes Kangen's explanation and directly asks how exactly he raises their skills. With a serious look, she bluntly deduces that their stats must go up whenever they engage in a wholesome gym sesh together. The sudden deduction catches Kangen completely off guard, leaving him flustered as he frantically explains that her unusual behavior yesterday was merely a side effect of his abilities rather than the method itself. Skeptical, Hyuna crosses her arms and ponders if her manager is lying, but ultimately concludes that the situation is far too bizarre for him to be making it up. Wanting to confirm the truth for herself, she asks if simply engaging in a gym sesh will indeed raise her skills. Before he can even respond, Hyuna firmly asks him to help her test his theory firsthand. Meanwhile, over in the recording studio, the rest of the Lemon Soda members are waiting. Mei compliments Minji on how much her singing has improved lately, and Minji smugly boasts that it is all thanks to her own private study sessions. As they chat, a worried Nayeon wonders where Hyuna could be, expressing concern that their teammate might actually be sick. Minji stands up and asks if they should go look for her, but Nayeon spots Hyuna approaching. Stepping through the doorway, Hyuna is immediately greeted by the other girls, who ask if she is feeling all right. Apologizing for the wait, Hyuna reassures them she is fine and announces she is going to get to work immediately. However, as Hyuna walks past her to enter the recording booth, a highly observant Minji freezes in suspicion, quietly wondering why Hyuna smells exactly like their manager's cologne. Completely oblivious to her teammate's suspicion, Hyuna steps up to the microphone, slips her headphones on, and begins to sing her lines with incredible passion, belting out her high notes with newfound strength. Inside the recording booth, Hyuna delivers an impressive vocal performance that leaves the sound engineer thoroughly amazed. After wrapping up the session in just a single take, the engineer praises her exceptional vocals. Looking over her lyric sheet, Hyuna is left in disbelief, wondering if our boy was actually telling the truth when he claimed her singing skills had increased. Determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, she resolves to investigate the matter thoroughly for herself. A few days later, under a crescent moon, the girls of Lemon Soda arrive at Manager Kim's pub for their celebratory team dinner. Hyuna leads the group inside, followed closely by Nayeon, Minji, and Mei. As they step through the doors, Kangin walks in right alongside them while checking his phone. The girls happily call out their greetings to everyone inside, eager to start the night. Sitting at a nearby table, variety show producer Han Sujin spots them and waves enthusiastically to get our boy's attention. Telling the members to go ahead and mingle with the others, Kangin walks over to Sujin's table and warmly asks how she has been. Settling in with a plate of delicious fried chicken, Sujin replies that she is doing just fine, but notes that Kangin looks incredibly exhausted, asking if he has been having a difficult time lately. Seeing his tired expression, Sujin wonders if she is part of the reason for his fatigue. Meanwhile, Hyuna remains lost in her thoughts, vividly remembering the moment she confronted Kangin in the break room, recalling how she questioned him about her stat increases, and how he confirmed that her skills had indeed improved a little bit after their detailed discussion. Back in the present, a flustered Kangin scratches his cheek and awkwardly laughs it off, explaining that he simply has a mountain of work to handle. Pivoting the conversation, he mentions that he saw the ratings for their broadcast were highly successful. Smiling warmly, Sujin confirms they hit a solid 4.3%, crediting the success entirely to Lemon Soda's incredible energy. She explains that while the production crew normally holds their team dinners at a pork belly restaurant, she pushed hard to have it at a fried chicken joint since our boy mentioned that was what his girls wanted to eat. Deeply grateful, Kangin thanks her, sharing how thrilled the members were when they heard the news. Brushing off his gratitude, Sujin suggests they focus on enjoying their night, clinking her beer glass against his as they share a cheerful toast to celebrate their hard work. After clinking their glasses, Kangin and Sujin share a laugh, thoroughly enjoying their drinks together. As they chat, Sujin suddenly turns serious and hesitantly calls out Kangin's name, preparing to tell him something important. Before she can speak, the agency's female director enthusiastically greets him. She flatters Kangin by telling him he is even more handsome in person. Turning to Sujin, the director politely asks if she can borrow our boy for a moment, explaining that the Lemon Soda girls are eagerly calling for their manager. Though slightly disappointed, Sujin manages a polite smile and nods, giving them her blessing. The director proudly escorts Kangin back to the Lemon Soda table, announcing his return to the cheering girls. Naeon playfully pouts, asking where he went and insisting he should be sitting with them instead. Minji eagerly slides over, offering him a fresh drink. Kangin accepts the beer, while Minji happily sits right beside him. As he sits with his idols, Kangin steals a glance back at Sujin's table, noticing her chatting with another staff member. He realizes she clearly had something on her mind and resolves to ask her about it later when they have some privacy. Meanwhile, walking past the pub's window outside is none other than Ziak, the pink-haired idol. Inside, Minji playfully teases Kangin about his bright appearance from the drinks. Hearing the commotion, Ziak pauses outside the window and peers inside. Spotting the Lemon Soda members gathered around Kangin, Ziak is struck with bitter disbelief, recalling how Lee Naeon ghosted him and realizing she is now ignoring him for their manager. Sensing his distress, Ziak's friend asks what is wrong. Glaring through the glass, Ziak tells his group to go on ahead, announcing his intention to stop by the pub. Back inside, completely unaware of the looming confrontation, a cheerful Minji holds up a piece of fried chicken on a fork, happily offering her manager a taste. With a sharp creak of the door, Ziak steps inside the pub. Taking off his black baseball cap, he offers a bright, charming smile and greets everyone in the room. Spinning around in surprise, the agency's director excitedly asks Ziak what he is doing there. Maintaining his polite demeanor, Ziak explains that he merely spotted them through the window while passing by and decided to step inside to say hello. The table immediately erupts with excitement as the girls recognize the popular idol. While the others politely greet him as their senior, Naeon freezes. Looking incredibly tense, she silently wonders why on earth he showed up here. Sensing her sudden change in mood, Kangin glances over and immediately realizes that Naeon is feeling deeply uncomfortable around Ziak. Oblivious to the tension, the director warmly invites Ziak to stay and have a drink with them. Ziak initially tries to decline, claiming it would be rude of him to crash their celebratory show dinner. However, the director brushes off his concerns, asserting that it is completely informal and asking the rest of the crew if they are okay with him joining. After the staff eagerly agree, noting that his presence would be a great addition, Ziak chuckles and accepts the invitation. Smirking to himself, Ziak celebrates successfully joining the dinner. Turning his focus straight to Naeon, he casually greets her and points out how incredibly difficult it has been to get in touch with her lately. Forcing a polite smile, Naeon apologizes, explaining that she has simply been far too busy with her packed work schedule to check his messages. Intrigued by the exchange, the director stops to ask if the two of them are actually close. Keeping up his confident act, Ziak smoothly explains that they have simply crossed paths quite often during music program broadcasts. Smiling on the outside to keep up appearances, Ziak is internally fuming at Naeon's cold excuse, realizing she is actively shutting him out. Sitting nearby, Minji crosses her arms and glares at him with clear irritation, fully aware of his true intentions. Deciding she has had enough of the tense atmosphere, Minji stands up and announces to the table that she is heading to the restroom. Kangen politely acknowledges her as she slips past his chair. On her way out, Minji pulls out her phone, checking the screen before stepping through the pub's side door. Moments later, Kangen's phone buzzes on the table with a text appearing from Minji's contact, instructing him to meet her alone through the side door. Excusing himself to the group by claiming he needs to make a quick phone call, our boy slips away, feeling slightly nervous as he wonders what she could possibly want to discuss in private. Stepping out into the quiet alleyway, Kangen looks around and softly calls out Minji's name. She steps out from behind a corner, waving to get his attention. Confused, Kangen asks what she is doing out there. With a cheerful expression, Minji confesses that she actually came out to get some fresh air. She stands nearby and suggests they talk for a moment. They take a quiet walk together under the crescent moon, and Minji asks Kangen if he ended up drinking a lot tonight. Kangen admits that the festive atmosphere was so great that he couldn't help enjoying the celebration. When she asks how much he had, our boy proudly reassures her that he kept himself in check because, as their dedicated manager, he still has to drive the girls safely back to the dorm. Minji looks up at him with clear appreciation, happy for his professional care as they continue their late-night stroll. As they continue their walk, Nayeon's phone buzzes in her hand back inside. Looking down, she is immediately filled with frustration, muttering that the persistent messages are annoying. Curious, Kangen asks who is texting her. The screen displays a barrage of aggressive messages from Ziak, who is angrily demanding to know where she is hiding. When Kangen asks why Ziak is behaving so desperately, Nayeon explains that she hasn't seen him since her very first private study session with Kangen. She vents her frustration, stating that Ziak should have simply taken the hint and backed off, instead of pretending she is playing hard to get, especially since he used to act so easygoing. Kangen thoughtfully asks why she didn't just block him. Sighing, Nayeon admits she never expected him to actually follow her all the way to their team dinner after being rejected a few times. Kangen asks if that discomfort was the real reason she left the table earlier, and Nayeon confirms it, admitting she simply couldn't stand being in the same room as Ziak. Walking down the quiet steps, Kangen hesitantly asks Nayeon where exactly they are heading. Turning to him with a confident expression, Nayeon speaks up and confesses that all of this intense stress has made her eager to relax. A flustered Kangen stammers, asking what she means. Smiling playfully, Nayeon asks why else she would lead him to such a secluded spot, plainly asking her manager to help her blow off some steam with another gym sesh. Meanwhile, back inside the pub, a highly irritated Ziak sits with his arms crossed, impatiently wondering what is taking Nayeon so long to return from the restroom. Just then, the door creaks open, and both Kangen and Nayeon walk back into the room together. Immediately on guard, Ziak suspiciously asks why the two of them are returning at the same time. Kangen quickly makes up an excuse, laughing it off by claiming they had to run out to the van to retrieve Nayeon's forgotten phone. Although Ziak is left highly suspicious, wondering if something happened between them, Nayeon simply smirks to herself as she walks past him. As Nayeon confidently walks past him, Ziak watches her leave in absolute disbelief. He is immediately consumed by a wave of furious resentment, unable to comprehend that she actually cast him aside in favor of her manager. Gritting his teeth, he struggles to contain his growing anger. Looking across the table, Ziak's gaze wanders over the guests until his eyes lock onto Han Soo-jin. He recalls her role as the producer of the show, remembering the rumor that Lemon Soda was only cast on her program because she shares a very close personal relationship with their manager. Sizing her up with a highly critical eye, Ziak notes her impressive appearance and professional presence. A vengeful smirk spreads across his face as a scheme begins to form in his mind. He deviously contemplates how the manager will react if Ziak decides to target the producer, imagining how satisfying it will be to initiate a detailed discussion with Soojin right under his nose. Raising his beer glass to drink, Ziak feels fully determined to exact his revenge. The celebratory dinner party wraps up shortly after Kangen and Nayeon return. Noticing that everyone is beginning to pack up and leave, Kangen turns to Han Soojin and asks if she is feeling all right. Resting her head on her hand, a thoroughly exhausted Soojin admits she is fine but wonders what the plan is for the next round of drinks. Kangen explains that the next gathering is entirely optional, only for those who truly want to attend. When Soojin asks what his plans are, Kangen reveals that he and the girls are preparing to head out. Nodding respectfully, Soojin notes that while she has a completely free schedule tomorrow, Continuing to drink tonight would definitely be too rough. As Ziak is happily escorted away by some of the other staff members, our boy turns his focus back to Sujin. He offers to personally take her home, asking if she is ready to depart. Caught off guard by his sudden kindness, Sujin hesitantly asks what will happen to his lemon soda group members if he leaves. Stepping in to help, Nayeon firmly insists that Kangin should prioritize escorting the producer home. When a surprised Kangin asks what the girls will do, Nayeon cheerfully explains that they are simply going to head back to their dormitory to continue drinking on their own. She adds with a knowing smile that, since Sujin worked so hard to make them look exceptional on television, Kangin needs to take good care of her and ensure he stays on her absolute good side. Slightly embarrassed but pleased, Sujin gladly accepts his offer. When Kangin asks if she is ready to leave, she gives a soft, appreciative nod. Sometime later, under the quiet night sky, Kangin ends up walking alongside a highly intoxicated Sujin down the empty street. Sujin softly apologizes for drinking way too much, but Kangin warmly tells her not to worry about it at all. Sujin sleepily asks if she is slowing him down. Kangin quickly reassures her that she is not causing any trouble at all. Internally, however, our boy confesses to himself that while helping her home is not an issue, navigating the situation carefully is still proving to be quite a challenge. As they walk, Kangin continues to escort Sujin home safely. Suddenly, Sujin stirs and calls out his name. She sleepily inquires if he wears cologne, catching him completely off guard. When a surprised Kangin clarifies that he doesn't and asks why she is bringing it up, Sujin softly comments that he simply smells incredibly nice. Awkwardly laughing it off, Kangin suggests that perhaps some of the other girls' perfume must have stayed in the air during their busy schedule. Listening to his explanation, Sujin grows quiet, noting that she didn't get a proper chance to ask him an important question earlier. Looking at him seriously, she directly asks if he is dating one of his group members, pointing out how they constantly stick right next to him and seem incredibly close. Panicking, a flustered Kangin stammers that it is absolutely not like that at all. Slightly relieved but still professional, Sujin warns him that if anyone takes a misleading photo of them, it could make their careers incredibly difficult. Kangin readily agrees with her concern, promising to be far more careful from now on. Shortly after, they arrive at her apartment building. Standing outside her door, Kangin softly calls out to Sujin to check if she has fallen asleep. Realizing she is completely exhausted, he uses the passcode she had previously shared with him to unlock the digital door. Walking inside, he makes sure she is resting comfortably in her room. With a deep sigh of relief, Kangin stands near her, observing how peaceful she looks. He reflects that no matter how deeply she trusts him, she is being far too careless right now. However, he chooses to remain professional and decides that the best course of action is to simply retrieve a warm blanket for her and quietly leave her to rest. The next morning, a bright sun shines over the city. Our boy wakes up groggily in his bed, yawns, and sniffs the air, realizing that something smells absolutely delicious. Curious about the rich aroma of boiling food, Kangin sits up and wonders where Sujin went before stepping out of the bedroom to investigate. In the kitchen, Sujin is busy preparing a meal while wearing a neat pink apron. Upon hearing his footsteps, she turns around with a bright, welcoming smile and asks if he just woke up, inviting him to sit down and have breakfast. She notes that since he does not have to head to work just yet, he should definitely eat before leaving, serving a steaming pot of fresh stew directly onto the dining table. As they settle down to eat, a hesitant Sujin looks up from her bowl and asks Kangin if he remembers the events of last night. Kangin directly confirms that he certainly remembers everything. He explains that since they were both tired and confused at the time, he wants to officially express his true feelings to her once more. Looking toward her, he asks if she will agree to start dating him. Happy yet flustered, Sujin kindly agrees to be his girlfriend. A thrilled Kangin remains in complete disbelief, celebrating the realization that he is finally dating Sujin. However, the pleasant moment is suddenly cut short as Sujin glances down at her phone. She sees the late hour, realizes she is running behind, and announces she needs to leave for work immediately. She quickly gathers her belongings and heads for the door, promising to call him later. Kangin smiles at her sudden exit and wishes her the best of luck at work as the front door firmly shuts behind her. Kangin rests back on his bed and reflects on how he has dreamed of dating Sujin for so long, admitting that the reality of it still feels completely surreal. Although things worked out in the end, Kangin is still left puzzled, wondering why a strange bug appeared on Sujin's system profile. Once he sets aside his confusion, he realizes he needs to focus on his schedule as his phone displays several unread messages. Since the team members are currently asleep and waiting for him to wake them up, Kangin resolves to get dressed and head straight to work. Arriving near the girls' dormitory, Kangin receives a new private message on his phone instructing him to meet out front without informing the other members. Reading the text leaves him highly curious, and he wonders what could require such absolute secrecy. As he walks over to the designated spot, he spots Hyuna waiting for him, dressed casually in a black cap and flannel shirt. After walking over to her, Kangen calls out her name and asks why she wanted to see him, wondering if she is perhaps feeling unwell. Hyuna assures him that she is perfectly fine, explaining that she simply wanted to ask him an important question. Kangen asks her what is on her mind as a sudden bad feeling arises. Crossing her arms, Hyuna directly inquires if there is a way to raise her stats even faster through their gym sessions. Looking over her upgraded attributes on her screen, she explains that since she cannot choose which specific skills get upgraded, she wants a way to rapidly boost all of them at once. Kangen pauses, trying to process her intense focus. Undeterred by his hesitation, Hyuna looks him in the eye, declaring that she has given it a lot of thought and believes their private sessions are indeed the key to maximizing her growth. Kangen nervously tells Hyuna that initiating private gym sessions solely to raise her stats is incorrect. However, Hyuna asserts that there is no reason he would refuse a private session with her, especially since he always treated her so unfairly. As Kangen tries to process the statement, Hyuna confronts him directly, asking if something occurred when he took the producer home and if he is acting hesitant because things went well between them. Hyuna delivers a major surprise, pointing out that he already shared private study sessions with all of the other Lemon Soda members under the pretense of raising their abilities, and directly asks if he intends to stop now. Kangen feels his mind racing in panic as he desperately wonders how she could have found out about his secret meetings with everyone else. To understand how she uncovered the truth, the scene shifts back to the previous night at the Lemon Soda dormitory. The girls are unwinding with some drinks, clinking their glasses together to celebrate their successful broadcast. Nayeon asks Mei why she wanted to drink at the dorm, and Mei happily replies that it is simply nice for the four of them to enjoy a drink together once in a while. Minji readily agrees, though she quietly wishes that our boy was there to join them. Seizing the quiet moment, Nayeon turns to Hyuna and directly asks what she and their manager keep discussing lately, pointing out that the two of them keep disappearing together. Trying to play it cool, Hyuna shrugs it off and claims it is nothing, lying to her teammates by explaining she merely wanted to ask him for advice regarding acting work. When a pouting Minji asks if she is planning to become an actress, Hyuna reassures her that she will absolutely remain a dedicated member of Lemon Soda. However, Nayeon sees right through her, immediately realizing that Hyuna is lying to them. Oblivious to Nayeon's growing suspicion, Hyuna continues her cover story, humbly explaining that since her singing and dancing skills are not nearly as strong as the others, she is simply trying to find a specialty where she can truly shine. During a late-night gathering, Hyuna sits with her group members, looking incredibly tense and observant. She points out how much Nayeon's singing has improved lately, noting that both Minji and Mei have also developed impressive new strengths. Curious about their sudden growth, Hyuna openly wonders how they all managed to get so good so quickly. A hesitant Nayeon shyly admits that it is all thanks to our boy, while Mei nods in silent agreement. Hearing this, a surprising realization washes over Hyuna. She silently concludes that every single one of her teammates has been engaging in gym sessions with Kangen. Determined not to leave things as they are, she takes a firm drink, her resolve hardening. Back in the present, Hyuna stands near Kangen. Though she feels slightly bad for the variety show producer, she directly informs him that she intends to continue having gym sessions with him. A flustered Kangen can only stammer her name, but Hyuna remains firm, questioning why he would expect her to walk away from such a massive opportunity to improve her stats. She points out that he never should have started this process if he was not prepared to take full responsibility and see it through to the end. Overwhelmed by the confrontation, Kangen lets out a heavy sigh and suggests they head upstairs to talk. Hyuna agrees, but notes that the other members should be informed about what is happening as well. She offers a compromise, promising to remain completely silent so he can be the one to explain the entire situation to the group. Kangen nods in agreement, promising to do so, though the sheer weight of the looming confession leaves him sighing in deep exhaustion. Sitting heavily at the table inside the dormitory, he prepares to face the music. Seeing his unusually tense expression, Nayeon and Mei look on with curiosity, wondering what could possibly be important enough to make our boy so incredibly serious this early in the morning. The morning meeting continues with Minji and Hyuna yawning sleepily, waiting for our boy to get to the point. Awkwardly scratching his head, Kangen admits that he felt he owed them complete honesty. Annoyed by his hesitation, Nayeon urges him to stop beating around the bush and reveal what is on his mind. Gathering his courage, Kangen drops a massive bombshell, confessing that he has officially gotten a girlfriend. The news sends Nayeon, Mei, and Minji into absolute shock. Minji immediately reacts, confronting him directly, as she tearfully demands to know if his new partner is indeed the variety show producer. When a quiet Kangen confirms it, a heartbroken Minji feels completely betrayed, wondering how he could possibly do this to her. Shouting that he is the absolute worst, she bursts into tears and runs off, slamming her bedroom door shut behind her. With Minji gone, Nayeon turns her focus back to Kangin. She scolds him for the sudden confession, reminding him that she had instructed him to take the producer home safely, not to start a relationship with her. Lacking any defense, an apologetic Kangin can only bow his head in silence. Nayeon lets the matter drop for a moment but immediately turns to ask a very direct question, wondering if this means he plans to put an end to all of their private study sessions. Speaking softly, she asks how he plans to manage his workload when the busy producer is unavailable. A flustered Kangin can only stammer her name, but Nayeon continues to question him, wondering what will happen if she simply cannot hold herself back. Watching the scene unfold from the sidelines, Hyuna reflects on how a single person could never easily manage their group's busy schedule, wondering if our boy will even be able to handle it. Stepping forward, Hyuna suggests that if he truly feels apologetic about the situation, his best option is to simply continue conducting their gym sessions together for the time being. Hyuna privately reflects that this arrangement might actually be for the best, as it will allow all of the members to receive dedicated guidance equally. Nayeon addresses Kangin directly, maintaining a focused conversation that leaves our boy visibly tense. Smiling at his reaction, Nayeon reassures him that they are definitely not asking him to break up with his new girlfriend. Nayeon looks toward Kangin, asking for his final thoughts on the proposal. Realizing he is completely cornered, Kangin notes to himself that he desperately needs to find a way to resolve this intense situation first. Making a calculated compromise, he reluctantly agrees, stating that if this is truly what the girls need, he will do it. However, he quickly adds a condition, explaining that he is only agreeing to this arrangement to help all of them maintain their focus on their official work. Pleased with his response, Nayeon praises him for making the right decision. Suddenly, the door bursts open as a tearful Minji charges back into the room, loudly declaring that she absolutely cannot accept this outcome. As Mei tries to calm her, Minji cries out in frustration, asserting that Kangin cannot simply decide to change their arrangement all by himself. To soothe her, Mei explains that our boy has actually agreed to continue. Confused by this, Minji gasps in surprise, prompting Nayeon to calmly clarify that they can still continue having their private study sessions with him. A flustered Minji frantically snaps back that the study sessions are not the main issue here, pointing out that the real problem is that our boy now has an official girlfriend. Seizing the opportunity to advise her teammate, Nayeon speaks softly to Minji, reminding her that she still has a perfect chance. She suggests that instead of acting overly emotional, it would be far better to focus her energy on trying to achieve her goals. Biting her lip as the advice sinks in, a deeply embarrassed Minji turns back to Kangin and sincerely apologizes, admitting she acted far too impulsively. A relieved Kangin quickly reassures her that it is perfectly fine. Seeing that everyone has finally calmed down, Nayeon suggests that their next step should be establishing a clear schedule to figure out the exact order of their sessions. Hearing this, a skeptical Hyuna crosses her arms, questioning what she means by an order. Nayeon smoothly explains that a set schedule is only fair, as it would be wrong if someone got to engage in gym sessions with him more frequently than the others. However, Minji quickly cuts in with a sharp glare, directly questioning why Hyuna is suddenly inserting herself into this arrangement. She pointedly reminds everyone that Hyuna used to argue with Kangin constantly in the past. Caught completely off guard, a flustered Hyuna hesitates, struggling to find the words to defend her sudden interest. Nayeon humorously suggests that working through gym sessions is exactly how they always resolve their conflicts with our boy. Clearing his throat, Kangin instructs all of the girls to gather around. Privately, he realizes that he will not be able to easily persuade them to drop the matter right away, concluding that he must find a way to minimize their heartache as this complicated situation continues to progress. Just then, a hesitant Mei steps forward and asks our boy if he is free today. She reminds him of a specific place he had mentioned wanting to visit back when they were at the dormitory. Kangin is caught off guard, silently noting that it is still broad daylight. Fidgeting nervously, Mei explains that the other members strictly warned her that they would not allow her to spend the entire day with him by herself on his day off. Looking down shyly, she softly adds that if he really does not want to go through with it, they can stop. However, Kangin warmly assures her that there is absolutely no way he would ever refuse. He internally resolves to give his hardworking team everything he has to offer right now. Deeply touched, Mei settles into her seat and sincerely asks him never to abandon them. Speaking calmly, Kangin softly reassures her that he would never do such a thing. Following their gym sesh, a system chime sounds to display Mei's updated statistics, showing a B in vocal, a B- in dance, an A in entertainment, a C in acting, and a D in songwriting. Later on, the doorbell rings at Kangin's apartment. Opening the door, Kangin is greeted by Han Sujin, who smiles warmly as she steps through the entryway. Guiding her inside, Kangen invites his girlfriend to come in. Sujin walks beside Kangen as he steps inside. A pleased Kangen notes to himself how wonderful it feels having Sujin welcome him home, thinking that it truly feels like they are a domestic couple. Sitting down near him, Sujin mentions that she took the rest of the day off. When Kangen asks if it is really okay for her to leave work so early, Sujin reassures him that her only remaining task for the day was organizing Lemon Soda's schedule. Kangen adds that since she had mentioned not feeling well, he certainly wanted to come over to see her. Intrigued by his dedication, Sujin asks when Lemon Soda's next promotional schedule is set to happen. Kangen explains that since their next music program is on Sunday, they have plenty of free time this week. Pulling out her phone to show online fan comments, Sujin suggests that they should put the girls in the public eye much more often, as attention is crucial for growing idols. Noting that Lemon Soda already has an official YouTube channel, she proposes creating fun online content with the members to boost their viewership. Thrilled by the suggestion, Kangen agrees that it is a great idea and promises to bring it up with the label tomorrow, warmly thanking her for her help. Filled with appreciation, Kangen listens attentively to Sujin. As they sit together in the room, both smile warmly while chatting side by side. Suddenly, Sujin pauses, remembering that he had mentioned not feeling well earlier, and checks if he is all right. However, she quickly smiles and confesses that seeing him has already made her feel completely better. A flustered Kangen smiles, affectionately calling her a dummy. Standing up, Sujin reveals that she actually has a special present she wants to show him. Intrigued, Kangen wonders what kind of gift she has prepared. Telling him to wait just a moment, Sujin steps into the adjacent room and firmly shuts the door behind her. The next night, at the Lemon Soda dormitory, Kangen carefully hides a small camera behind some teacups to set up his plan. He recalls getting approval from director Junghan Gyu, who agreed that it sounded like a fun idea. A flashback to their group chat reveals the master plan: a hidden camera birthday prank for Minji, where Hyuna and Nayeon will stage a sudden, intense argument. Suddenly, the digital lock beeps as the girls arrive. Kangen scurries to hide behind a door, waiting as they enter. Right on cue, Hyuna and Nayeon begin their performance, with Hyuna loudly demanding to know why Nayeon cannot understand her. As they walk inside, a highly stressed Minji and Mei follow closely behind them. Hyuna continues to bicker, coldly pointing out that making mistakes during practice means Nayeon will surely mess up on stage. Peeking through a crack in the door, Kangen notes that they are doing an excellent job acting deep in their argument. The hidden camera records their intense back and forth as Minji's anxiety grows. Observing Minji's deeply distressed expression, Kangen concludes that the girl's acting is highly convincing. Anxious to stop the conflict, a worried Minji steps in, pleading with both of them to calm down. Whipping her head around, Nayeon snaps that she is only upset because Hyuna keeps nagging her about the same exact thing over and over. Hyuna coldly retorts that Nayeon should simply do a better job so she would not have to nag in the first place. Minji watches the situation unfold as Nayeon tells Hyuna to mind her own business. When an outraged Hyuna demands to know if she is serious, an overwhelmed Minji bursts into a loud cry. Tears stream down her face, instantly throwing the other members into a panic. Dropping the act immediately, a startled Nayeon reassures Minji, pleading with her not to cry. Comforting her warmly, Nayeon and Hyuna laughingly reveal that it was all just a hidden camera prank, playfully asking if their fake fight had scared her. Following the dramatic reveal of the prank, the girls warmly gather around a still-crying Minji, clapping and singing as they present her with a delicious strawberry birthday cake. Later that night, Kangen quietly slips into Minji's bedroom. Sitting down nearby, he gently asks if she was genuinely frightened by the fake argument earlier. Letting out a soft sigh, Minji admits that, of course she was, explaining that she honestly believed Nayeon and Hyuna were destroying their relationship, and questions if he truly understands how terrified she felt. Feeling deeply apologetic, Kangen expresses his genuine regret as Minji listens attentively. Minji asks if he is truly sorry, which he warmly confirms. Blushing deeply, Minji jokingly declares that if he is indeed sorry, she needs proper compensation for being used as prank content. Before Kangen can even process her words, Minji sits down beside him, looking toward him expectantly. A flustered Kangen can only stammer in surprise, but Minji speaks softly, telling him that he is not allowed to decline today. Looking at him earnestly, she reminds him that it is officially her turn to hold a gym session with him. The next afternoon, Kangen walks into the VA entertainment building while checking his phone. He is highly pleased to see that the response to their new YouTube upload is incredibly positive, with their birthday hidden camera prank video on Minji already racking up over 1.7 million views. Reflecting on the shoot, Kangen thinks about how Hyuna's fake anger was truly exceptional, and how a massive wave of online comments is praising Minji's tearful reaction as incredibly cute. Though they did not have major expectations when they first uploaded the prank, the video has successfully blown up far more than they ever anticipated. Arriving at the dormitory, Kangan pushes the door open to find the girls gathered in the living room. Spotting him, Mei excitedly asks if he has had a chance to read the comment section yet, happily noting that people are absolutely loving their content. However, an embarrassed Minji pouts, muttering that her crying reaction looked completely awkward on screen. Nayeon quickly reassures her that it was not awkward at all, while Hyuna turns to curiously ask if she truly behaved like a terrifying person during the fake argument. With a sheepish smile, Kangan admits that she might have indeed looked just a tiny bit scary, leaving a startled Hyuna completely speechless. Left to his thoughts, Kangan opens his app to review their updated statistics, noting how much better their overall form has become. Shin Hyuna's profile now displays a B+ in vocal, a B in dance, a C in entertainment, an A in acting, and a D+ in composition. Meanwhile, Mei's stats showcase a B in vocal, a B- in dance, an A in entertainment, a C in acting, and a D in composition. While their growth is solid, Kangan realizes his next major challenge will be finding a way to push their primary attributes all the way to S rank. Right as he contemplates his next move, a grand pink system window flashes on his screen, unlocking a high-stakes awakening quest titled, "I'm the Dancing Queen," which commands him to successfully clear the final stage of Chapter 3. Looking over the awakening quest, Kangan ponders how there are no physical game stages in real life, wondering what on earth this objective could actually be. He briefly worries if he needs to hold another gym session with the girls to trigger it. Just then, Hyuna breaks his train of thought by asking what their upcoming schedule looks like. Blinking in surprise, Kangan pulls up his planner and explains that first off, Mei has received an invitation to appear on Music Bank. Mei gasps in surprise as Kangan explains that next week's episode will feature special MCs, and if their ratings are good, they will continue hosting until the following week. When Kangan asks if she wants to do it, a thrilled Mei enthusiastically agrees. Minji immediately asks who will be co-hosting alongside Mei. Kangan reveals that the co-host is none other than Ziak, whom they met at the pub. Upon hearing his name, Nayeon and Minji react with sheer surprise. An irritated Nayeon immediately crosses her arms and advises Mei to simply tell the station that she won't do it. This leaves a thoroughly confused Mei wondering why Nayeon is reacting so negatively. While Nayeon and Minji whisper in the background about Ziak, Hyuna quietly pulls Kangan aside to ask about the status of their secret project. Kangan explains that they successfully submitted her audition application earlier today, meaning they will find out the results of her School 2020XX miniseries audition this Friday. Hyuna questions why they have to keep this a complete secret from the other members. Kangan gently explains that our boy simply doesn't want to get the other girls' hopes up prematurely. Confidently, Hyuna notes that she will likely pass the application stage anyway, confirming that the physical audition is scheduled for next Wednesday. As Kangan confirms her timeline, Hyuna silently wonders if her acting attribute is still at an A rank, and our boy mentally confirms that indeed, her acting skill is currently locked at a solid A. Suddenly, Hyuna turns to Kangan, letting him know she is going to step outside for a second, and instructing him to follow her. Leaving a confused Kangan in her wake, she walks out of the practice room. Out in the quiet hallway, a nervous Kangan asks her where exactly they are heading. As she walks, Hyuna calmly explains that she wants to raise her acting attribute to at least an A+, so she won't feel as anxious during the actual audition. Before Kangan can process her plan, Hyuna opens a nearby door with a sharp click, firmly instructing him to remain quiet and step inside. Looking back at him with a flushed face, Hyuna stresses that she absolutely needs to perform exceptionally well at this upcoming audition. Following a focused session of dedicated practice, Kangan checks his phone to find a highly welcoming surprise. Shin Hyuna's system profile flashes on the screen, revealing that her acting attribute has successfully upgraded from a solid A to an impressive A+. The system even chimes to congratulate them, noting that they were quite fortunate. Hyuna is left visibly flushed as she adjusts her hair, expressing how glad she is that her effort paid off. Sensing the tight schedule, she quickly adjusts her outfit and urges Kangan that they need to hurry back before the other members get suspicious of their absence. Upon arriving back at the dormitory, Kangan pushes the door open to announce their return, but he immediately freezes in his tracks. Standing before them are Lee Nayeon and Mei, looking incredibly serious and tense. Sandwiched between them is Minji, who is completely overwhelmed under their heavy, intimidating glares, wondering why the atmosphere feels so strange and intense. Sensing the potential conflict, a nervous Kangan awkwardly tries to excuse himself, muttering that our boy is going to step outside for fresh air. But before he can leave, Mei looks visibly worn out and exhausted. Trying to understand the reason behind the tension, Nayeon turns to Kangin and Hyuna, directly asking if something happened between the two of them. While Hyuna looks on with a calm, indifferent expression, Nayeon lets out a heavy, dramatic sigh. She decides to explain the reason behind the mood, bringing up a brief discussion from just a few minutes earlier. Before Kangin and Hyuna had returned, Nayeon pulled Mei aside to ask if she really had to accept the special MC gig. Mei confidently replied that she did, explaining that hosting had been a dream of hers for a long time. Noticing Nayeon's deeply worried expression, Mei asked why she had been trying so hard to dissuade her, questioning if Nayeon truly did not want her to take the job. Nayeon quickly tried to laugh it off, reassuring Mei that she would actually love to see her succeed. However, she hesitated before revealing her main concern, Ziak, the popular male idol scheduled to co-host the broadcast alongside Mei. Nayeon flatly warned her that Ziak is incredibly difficult and problematic behind the scenes. To prove her point, she recalled the toxic, rude text messages Ziak had sent her after she declined his invitations, where he aggressively criticized her and accused her of playing hard to get. While Mei naively pointed out that Ziak always seemed polite and friendly in public, Nayeon firmly shut that down, explaining that his nice persona is completely fake. Looking at Mei with deep concern, Nayeon warned her that if she isn't careful, Ziak might treat her disrespectfully or push unwanted attention onto her. As the discussion continued, Mei firmly insisted that she is fully capable of taking care of herself. However, Nayeon pointed out Ziak's extreme persistence, warning Mei that her gentle nature might lead her to accommodate him until a truly problematic situation arises. This warning struck a nerve, prompting Mei to stand her ground firmly and question how Nayeon could possibly know so much detail about Ziak's private behavior. Flustered, Nayeon struggles to find an answer, internally lamenting how frustrating it is that she cannot easily reveal the truth about what that problematic guy did to her. Unable to share the details, Nayeon urgently begs Mei to simply drop the hosting gig because she asked her to. This blunt, demanding approach leaves Mei looking completely stunned and deeply hurt. Returning to the present moment, Kangin processes the story, realizing that this misunderstanding was the source of the recent tension. Nayeon sadly confirms it, explaining to our boy that she only acted so defensively because she was genuinely worried about Mei's well-being. Stepping into the conversation, Hyuna points out that despite her protective intentions, Nayeon still handled the situation poorly. Nayeon readily agrees with the criticism but notes that Mei stormed out before she could even try to explain herself. Concerned for their teammate, Minji advises Kangin that he needs to go find Mei right away. Kangin nods in agreement, confidently realizing he likely knows exactly where she went to clear her head. Meanwhile, under a clear blue sky, a dejected Mei walks alone through the park, wearing her black cap and athletic gear. Slumping onto a wooden bench with a heavy sigh, she sadly wonders why her teammates find it so difficult to trust her. Her quiet thoughts are suddenly interrupted by her phone vibrating in her hand. Initially hoping the incoming message is from Kangin, she looks down, only to find an unexpected text from Ziak. He casually brings up their meeting at the recent dinner, explaining that he is reaching out because he heard they will be co-hosting Music Bank together next week. Confused by the sudden message, Mei wonders how Ziak managed to acquire her personal contact information in the first place, briefly questioning if our boy was the one who shared it with him. Elsewhere, a scheming Ziak walks down a hallway while typing away on his phone. Having received her polite confirmation that this will indeed be her very first time hosting, Ziak suggestively proposes that the two of them should meet up privately beforehand to get to know each other better. Bitterly reflecting on his recent setbacks, Ziak recalls how that television producer kept repeatedly turning down his invitations. However, looking down at his phone, his frustration quickly turns into dark satisfaction. A smug grin spreads across his face as he realizes that despite those previous rejections, it seems he has finally made progress with a new acquaintance. With his confidence fully restored, he looks intently at his phone, completely focused on initiating his next plan. Walking through the sunny park, Kangin scans his surroundings and is relieved to finally spot Mei sitting quietly on a wooden bench. Calling out her name, our boy approaches and takes a seat on the bench nearby, admitting that he had a strong feeling she would be clearing her head there. Mei looks up as he sits, and Kangin gently asks if she is truly upset about the earlier confrontation. Looking away, Mei softly denies it, explaining that is not quite the case. Hoping to ease the tension, Kangin advises her not to hold a grudge against Nayeon, explaining that Nayeon only spoke so harshly because she was genuinely worried about her. Mei turns back to him, softly agreeing that she understands Nayeon's protective perspective. Kangin continues to offer reassurance, gently pointing out that since May is still adapting to the Korean language and is naturally trusting, Nayeon simply feels a strong desire to look out for her. May looks at him intently and asks if he also opposes her taking the hosting job. Caught off guard by her direct question, Kangin quickly clarifies the situation, reassuring her that he only expressed hesitation because he shares that exact same concern for her well-being. Reassured by his genuine care, May's mood brightens considerably. Smiling softly, she announces that she feels much better and suggests they head back. Kangin readily agrees and stands up to walk alongside her. However, during their walk, Kangin still feels a lingering sense of unease. Glancing over at her, our boy decides to activate his system's ability to read her innermost thoughts to ensure everything is truly fine. The system scans her mind, revealing a hidden thought that startles him. May is secretly thinking that since Kangin shares those same doubts, there is ultimately no point in telling him about her situation. Our boy is left deeply puzzled, wondering what she could possibly be keeping to herself. Before he can dwell on it, a smiling May enthusiastically prompts him to hurry along. Knowing he cannot simply confront her directly about his mind-reading results, Kangin resolves to stay patient, hoping she will eventually open up to him on her own terms. A few days pass, and thankfully, May and Nayeon manage to fully reconcile and resolve their misunderstanding. However, a new issue quickly arises. Inside the agency's parked van, an angry voice loudly demands to know if someone has lost their mind, sharply questioning if they truly believe they can turn around a struggling variety program. While driving the van, Kangin listens to Hyuna as she reviews her materials. Looking over the details of the variety program, she confidently dismisses the criticisms, questioning why she wouldn't be able to handle the role. She urges him to trust her, promising she will definitely make the show a success. Impressed by her immense confidence, a nervous Kangin admits he felt like creating an entirely new show just to give it to her. Hyuna giggles, playfully accusing him of exaggerating, though Kangin firmly reassures her that he is completely serious. To understand her breakthrough, a flashback reveals her actual audition, where Hyuna stood before the casting director, delivering a passionate line about how much she appreciates her elder mentor, leaving a highly positive impression on the judges. Back in the waiting area, Kangin sits patiently on a bench until Hyuna finally steps out of the audition room. Standing up to greet her, our boy eagerly asks how the audition went. Hyuna immediately looks downcast, sadly stating that she completely blew the entire performance, with tears even appearing in her eyes. A worried Kangin offers reassuring words, reminding her that it is completely fine and that setbacks simply happen. However, Hyuna's tearful expression instantly shifts into a sussy grin as she reveals she was only kidding. Before a bewildered Kangin can even process her prank, Hyuna proudly displays a white business card, presenting it with a playful flourish. Confused, Kangin looks at the card, wondering whose contact information she has received. Hyuna happily explains that after she finished performing her prepared lines, the director stood up to shower her with compliments. She adds that the director explicitly told her she can expect to hear positive news very soon, even instructing her to contact him directly if she ever had any questions. Hearing the incredible news, Kangin realizes that all of her intense gym sessions have successfully paid off, offering her his warmest congratulations. Looking slightly bashful under his praise, Hyuna softly notes that he also worked hard to support her. Our boy grins in response, silently reflecting to himself that he indeed worked exceptionally hard to help her prepare in many ways. With a bright smile, Hyuna happily celebrates their successful teamwork. In the waiting area, Hyuna tells Kangin to pause the conversation, explaining that since the casting agency will send the audition results directly through him anyway, she intends to simply rest for the remainder of the day. While riding in the van, Hyuna double-checks if their official schedules are finished for the afternoon. Kangin confirms that once he picks up the other members at the label, he plans to head straight home. Hearing his eager plans, Hyuna playfully teases him, pointing out that being in an official relationship seems to have given him extra energy. Kangin can only laugh nervously, pressing the start button to turn on the vehicle. However, Hyuna pouts, softly calling him a mean guy. Sensing the sudden shift in her mood, a nervous Kangin begins to worry if he accidentally did something wrong, briefly considering using his app to read her thoughts. But before our boy can pull out his phone, Hyuna holds up her hand, firmly warning him not to read her mind. Kangin is left completely dumbfounded, nervously wondering how she is somehow better at reading his mind than he is with his own system. Still, he pushes the worry aside and drives the van out into the street. The scene transitions to that evening at the girls' luxury dormitory. Looking stylishly dressed up in a white jacket, May quietly heads toward the front door. Spotting her, Nayeon is caught off guard and asks where she is going so late, May calmly explains that she has plans, prompting Nayeon to immediately ask if she is meeting up with Kangin. When May denies it, explaining she is merely meeting a friend, Nayeon reacts with surprise, almost pointing out that May doesn't normally have close friends outside the group. However, Nayeon immediately catches herself, remembering how recently they fought and realizing she shouldn't overstep her boundaries. Waving her hand, Nayeon quickly backtracks, telling May to simply disregard her questions and have a great time. May happily agrees as she steps through the doorway and leaves the dormitory. Shortly after, Hyuna approaches Nayeon, confusedly asking where May went in such a hurry. Nayeon explains that May claimed she was heading out to meet a friend. Crossing her arms, a highly skeptical Hyuna wonders if this friend is perhaps a member of another idol group. Nayeon admits she has no clue, repeating that May only stated it was a friend. Curious and suspicious, Hyuna suggests that if Nayeon is truly that worried about their innocent teammate, she should simply follow her. Nayeon lets out a thoughtful sigh, deeply contemplating whether she should actually trail behind May. Taking Hyuna's suggestion seriously, Nayeon makes up her mind and confirms she actually plans to follow May. This decision leaves Hyuna looking completely shocked and filled with concern. Determined to protect her teammate, Nayeon slips on a black cap and jacket, quietly leaving the dormitory while harboring a strong gut feeling that something problematic is about to happen. Meanwhile, May arrives at a luxury establishment under a bright neon sign that reads, Lounge. Stepping inside, she looks around in awe at the fancy, dark, wallpapered corridors, reflecting that she has never visited a place like this before. Tentatively pushing a door open, she softly offers a polite greeting. Inside the private room, Ziak is sitting at a large table packed with expensive beverages and food alongside his associates. Spotting her, he waves warmly, loudly announcing her arrival and welcoming her inside. As May settles onto the plush pink sofa, Ziak politely thanks her for traveling all this way, gently inquiring if she has had a chance to eat yet. May shyly admits that she hasn't had anything to eat. Pointing to the luxurious platter of food, Ziak smoothly suggests they enjoy some snacks while taking the opportunity to get to know each other better. Relieved by his hospitable welcome, May happily agrees. Watching her enjoy the expensive spread, Ziak chuckles, warmly noting how nice it is to see her eating with such a healthy appetite. May happily digs into the delicious food, but suddenly realizes how much she has eaten. Blushing, she drops her head in embarrassment, apologizing that she did nothing but eat the entire time. However, Ziak quickly reassures her that he genuinely enjoyed watching her eat. Smiling warmly, he gestures toward her face while a flustered May continues to apologize, deeply embarrassed by her manners. Ziak reassures a flustered May, kindly explaining that making a small mess is perfectly normal when enjoying a meal. Taking a slow sip of his drink, he secretly steals a calculated glance at her. Right on cue, one of his associates stands up while checking his phone, awkwardly explaining that an urgent matter has suddenly come up, forcing them to make an early departure. May politely bids them goodbye as the group quickly exits the room, while Ziak's other companion encourages them to make sure to work hard. Left completely alone, a smirking Ziak shifts his position on the velvet sofa. Feeling incredibly tense and awkward, May admits she only agreed to come tonight because she believed a larger group would be present, noting she never anticipated they would end up as the only ones left in the room. Ziak begins pouring a fresh beverage, smoothly suggesting that while it is indeed a shame their colleagues had to leave, there is no reason the two of them shouldn't enjoy a few drinks together. A highly hesitant May attempts to politely decline, explaining she really is not very good at handling alcohol. However, Ziak offers a sly grin, reminding her that he distinctly saw her drinking during their recent group dinner. He firmly encourages her, insisting she should just have a single glass. Feeling completely cornered, a reluctant May decides that a single drink should be harmless enough, nervously reaching out to accept the glass. Meanwhile, down at a nearby convenience store, a highly worried Nayeon sits alone at the counter, contemplating that the group must have an awful lot to discuss for the meeting to take this long. Staring at the glowing lounge sign across the street, she tells herself that it would indeed be normal if a business discussion took a while. Finally losing her patience, Nayeon stands up and prepares to head over to the lounge herself. But as she gets ready to leave, her eyes suddenly widen in pure shock as she spots an alarming sight outside the entrance. Stepping out into the night, Ziak is helping a completely exhausted and visibly unwell May leave the building. Nayeon is left frozen in absolute disbelief, gasping in horror as she desperately wonders why that problematic guy is assisting her incapacitated teammate. May remains completely unconscious, resting passively beside him, and entirely unaware of the uncertain situation unfolding around her.